Call the meeting to order. This is the June 13th meeting of the Town of Black Mountain Board of Aldermen. I'd like to welcome everyone. If you would, please turn off your cell phones and your beepers. Let us stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to recognize Matt Brower, Kyle Phillips, and Caleb Guthrie for coming forward to lead us in this Pledge of Allegiance. These young men were just awarded and earned the Eagle Scout Award last week.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. If you would, remain standing. Reverend Steve Rayburn will now do our invocation.
All men please remove their cover. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this great and wonderful nation that we have a part of and a privilege to live in. We understand, Lord, that you are gracious to us and better to us than we deserve. It is with humble hearts that we come before you this evening to simply say thank you for all your goodness and all your blessings to us. We pray, Father, that you would give wisdom to this Board of Aldermen. To all the citizens who speak, may each one seek reconciliation and the common good and not their own. We pray, Father, that you would just bless this meeting with your presence. We pray, Father, that you would give us grateful hearts. In Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen. You may be seated. Reverend Rayburn, I believe you guys have a special event this week.
Yes, I think many churches during the summer have what's known as Vacation Bible School. I noticed that church down the street, First Baptist of Black Mountain, has theirs the same week we have ours, so you can go to either one. June the 19th to the 23rd. I want to know why I take the privilege of sharing this is because it was during Vacation Bible School that I came to faith in Christ, and I know the value of it. When I was a little knothead 14-year-old boy, I didn't know that one day the Lord would call me to be a minister, but it was during Vacation Bible School that journey began. And so it's important. And get your kids involved in it. Thank you for the privilege of sharing that.
Matthew, Kyle, Caleb, let me give you a pen from the Town of Black Mountain. Also, I got one here for Hunter. That also. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. This time, Marcy O'Neill, our town manager, will make some announcements.
Yes, sir. This is a big couple of weeks coming up in Black Mountain. We have several items on the agenda to remind our audience and viewers. The Black Mountain Pool is now open daily from 11 to 6. We have a new food service available for our golf course. This is a temporary solution to not having food available. We have Johnny Panini's at Black Mountain Golf Course. This is quick takeout, snacks, sandwiches, beverages, open 11 to 3 in the lower lounge of the golf course. Park Rhythms starts this week, every Thursday night from 7 to 9 p.m., June 16th to August 4th. We hope you'll join us over at the park for great music and great refreshments, as I understand. Tom Gill is here as the chair of the Town Square Design Committee, Steering Committee. And Tom, would you like to say anything about the design workshop coming up?
Next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, consultants that were hired using NPO funds and DOT funds will be in town to look at the streets around the Black Mountain Town Square property to determine what kind of things would need to happen to those streets if there were to be development on that property. So we encourage any interested resident to come and be a part of that. Wednesday evening, there will be a meeting right here at Town Hall. I believe it's at 7 o'clock. And that will kind of kick off the whole process. On Thursday from 10 till 2, we'll actually have people on site at the Town Square property. You're welcome to come and share your comments. If you have a design plan or vision for the property, please let us know. And then that evening, there will be, on Thursday, we'll also be down at the Park Rhythms area, so people that come to that event would have an opportunity to say some things. And then on Friday evening at 6 o'clock here at Town Hall again, there will be another meeting, and that will actually, and a possible kind of a, I guess, an overall design concept for the property. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Last item is don't forget July 4th, the street dance and fireworks. We're grateful to our sponsor, the Family Care Home, who through their generosity have made fireworks in Black Mountain available last year and this year as well. So there are posters and schedules for the Town Square Design Workshop out on the table as you go out the front door, so please pick one up and join us.
Thank you. This time we'll recognize Andrew Brown and Will Presnell for presentation.
We would like to present a certificate of appreciation on behalf of Troop 50 to the Board of Aldermen for allowing us to participate in a council meeting in which we helped us obtain our citizenship in the community merit badge.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We do have citizen comments, but I believe everyone is, there is something on the agenda and will allow you to speak at that time. There's no one that's asked to speak that is not set on the agenda. So, this time we'll move to the consent agenda.
You have 4 items on the consent agenda this evening. You have adoption of minutes of your meetings of May 9th. You have adopted a regular monthly meeting schedule for the Board of Aldermen for the 6-month period from July through December. This will keep both your agenda session and your regular meetings on Monday evenings. However, you have changed the July and August meetings to the 3rd Monday of the month. We have an item for declaring surplus a 1987 JCB backhoe, which was previously assigned to the golf course and public services. This will be auctioned on GovDeals. And then finally, you have an appointment of designee to notify the North Carolina Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission of the recommendation of the Town of Black Mountain regarding the suitability of any persons and locations seeking to acquire ABC permits within its jurisdiction. And we are suggesting that you appoint the police chief to that role.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Unfinished business. This is a request from the Black Mountain Board of Aldermen to call for a referendum of a popular vote to allow sales of mixed beverages. This was requested for reconsideration by Vice Mayor Joan Brown. Ms. Brown, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to this. At the last meeting, we heard a request from a restaurateur here in Black Mountain asking that we consider placing liquor by the drink on the November ballot, to put it on a referendum. It was discussed to some degree, and they were told that they could get 35% of the registered voters on a petition, etc., which, after thinking about it, that's a lot of work for people to have to go through in order to get this request on the ballot. The more I thought about this after we met, the more disturbed I was. Not so much, I'm not saying I'm for liquor by the drink, or I'm not for it, or I'm not against it. I'm not saying that now. I'm simply saying that in all fairness to the citizens of Black Mountain, that no 5 people sitting up here ought to make the decision for you. That you ought to have that opportunity as a citizen to go to the polls in November and vote for it or against it. One of the concerns that I had, we met with the ABC board the 3rd Thursday of last month, and Mary Sneed, and she's here, and she may want to address something if this is okay. We learned that a lot of the income that comes from the ABC board can come from the purchase of liquor by the restaurants, and this will mean that the town of Black Mountain would get far more income from the ABC Board than we do now. The ABC Board gives us a certain percentage of their sales, and if we had liquor by the drink, the restaurant people would buy their liquor from our store, thus giving us more money into the town budget, into the town treasury. Our town manager has done a lot of comparison with the town of Brevard and their income and how it increased with going with liquor by the drink. One of the reasons also is that the Monte Vista has this permission, has this license, because it's a historic designation. And because of this, it didn't seem fair to me that the other restaurants and other businesses of this nature in town should be prevented from having the same ability to have liquor by the drink. This is one of the other reasons that I chose to put this, to ask for this to be put back on the agenda, for the board to consider a little bit more the feasibility of allowing it to go on the ballot in November. And I'd like to ask Mary Sneed. Mary, do you want to say anything else about, Mary is chair of the local ABC board, by the way, Mary Sneed.
You need to come up, Mary, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm Mary Sneed with the chairman of the ABC board. The only thing, we're about the only town that does not have liquor by the drink. And the restaurant owners outside are complaining because they cannot get the liquor. So I think it would be to the advantage of the town to put this on the ballot for November.
With this explanation, I would like to make a motion to request that the Buncombe County Board of Elections place on the ballot for popular vote during the next scheduled general election in on November 8th, 2011, a referendum considering the sale of mixed beverage in the town of Black Mountain as approved in North Carolina General Statute 18B 600.
There's a motion. We do have one that's signed up to speak on this. Bobby, if you'd like to step to the podium.
Yeah, I would. I would like to read a couple headlines from the local Black Mountain paper last month after our meeting last month. And one is the aldermen skirt the liquor referendum. And then the next week, it was the ABC board supports liquor by the drink. And so I'm asking you today to actually vote on this, because this is something that could be of great benefit to the city. And I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be put on the, at least for you to vote for it here so we see where everybody stands. Another point I'd like to make is that the last time that this was voted on was in 1986. There was about 1,000 people that voted for it, that voted in that election, and it lost by about 90 votes. That was 25 years ago. I think, you know, it's time to bring it up to the public again and actually let democracy work here. As Ms. Brown put it so eloquently, you know, I don't think it should be up to 5 aldermen to make the decision. I think the people should make the decision here, whether they want liquor by the drink in Black Mountain or not. And the other issue what Ms. Brown brought up was that it would be a great economic boon to the city, which, you know, in these economic times, we can all use a little boost. So again, I implore you to actually vote on it today. Put whatever personal things you may have aside and take the objective route and hopefully vote for it and let the people decide this November whether they want liquor by the drink in Black Mountain.
In discussion from the board. There being no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries 3-2. Next
I
item
will
is,
comment on that, Carl.
ma'am,
I will comment that the gentleman who spoke referred to your personal opinions. My personal opinion has nothing to do with my vote on a referendum for liquor by the drink. When I was elected to this board, I was elected to vote for what I felt was best for the town, not for me. And what I think is best for my town is not easier access to alcohol overall, whether it be young people or whether it be adults. So I'm voting for what I think is best for my town and not what is best for me.
okay. B. Marcia.
Yes, sir. We have a request from the Settings Homeowners Association, represented by Dick Kennedy, who is the president of that association, to consider asking this board to pursue calling the bond for that property so that the infrastructure can be completed. He would like to address the board tonight with a little more detail.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you about this. As you know, the Settings Homeowners Association had its annual meeting on May 21st and passed a motion at that meeting, which I sent you copies of. But a portion of that affects you is that the residents wanted to go on record asking that that Buncombe County and the town of Black Mountain, as well as the town attorney for the town of Black Mountain, should take all necessary and appropriate actions, including litigation, to cause the infrastructure completion bonds to be called and paid in full as promptly as possible, that the members of the Board of Directors of the Association should take such actions as they may deem necessary or advisable to support the actions of the county and town with respect to calling and payment of the bonds and application of the proceeds to the community, and that copies of these resolves should be delivered promptly to the declarant and to the appropriate officials of the town and the county. And I accompanied that with a note with a specific request which resulted in this agenda item. I want to clarify or perhaps correct that statement a little bit. In my note, we pointed out, first of all, let me just point out that what we're talking about here is a little bit like what Bobby just brought up. It's about prosperity for the town. It's about generating revenue. And it's about you having the ability to have revenue to do the things you need to do to make this a great place to live. In this case, we're talking about the Settings of Black Mountain, which is 85% complete, but which is still seen as being incomplete when people go to build a house. We have several people considering building houses who are reluctant to start because they don't know how the community is going to end up. And so it's extremely critical that we get that bond money called. Now, Ron has been working on this for some time. You've instructed him to do so, and we appreciate that. But as we've talked to some of our residents who are also residents in some of the other communities that are having much greater problems than we are, we're starting to realize the magnitude of the problem and what it takes to actually get a bond company, this particular bond company even, to pay up. And our guess is it's going to cost somebody in excess of $100,000 in legal fees to get there. Now, whoever puts out that money ought to get it back out of the proceeds before it goes into the roads. But it's not going to be an easy thing to accomplish. And that's really the reason that we brought this before you. I do want to revise the motion and what I said before, or I want to tell you what I meant to say, so to speak. And that is, I shouldn't have asked you to hire a specific law firm. I think that's not really what I wanted to say. We became aware of the fact that there's a law firm who has gone after this particular bond company for Brunswick County and won, and had that victory upheld on appeal. And that they are also representing like $40 million worth of claims for Rutherford County. So I just wanted to point that out because there may be some efficiencies in using somebody who's already been through the process, recognizes what kind of defenses the bond company is going to put forward and so on. I did not intend to say, please go hire that law firm. Really, if you consider a motion tonight, which I would hope you would, it ought to be to collaborate with the county and use whatever resources are appropriate and necessary to collect that bond and be able to get things moving in the settings, which will generate a lot of new homes being built, generate a lot of money in the community, and generate additional tax revenue for the town and the county. One other little update. Since we've addressed you before, the South Street Capital has foreclosed on the remaining unsold lots. The developer now has no lots left, which provides even better ammunition that there are no resources in the development company left to be able to use to finish the community. So and South Street is marketing those lots right now and selling them. So that's just paying off previous debts. So the developer clearly is never going to finish community. The town and the county not only have something to gain, but I believe have some responsibility. The town and the county have both been able to tax these properties as though they were completed because there was always a bond in place to guarantee that completion. And now it's time to bring that into a reality and call that bond and make it a real situation. So thank you for your time.
The board had a rather lengthy discussion on this in the agenda meeting. Counselor, would you like to make a few statements on that?
I don't know if I have anything to add to what Mr. Kennedy said. This board had authorized me some time ago to proceed against the bonding company. We've had discussions of what it takes to get here, which Mr. Kennedy also alluded to, that one of the biggest defenses is the developers alive or willing to proceed, and that's about wiped out now. There's a large amount of work to do. I'm not going to recommend or not recommend a particular law firm. I'm kind of applying my own. But I've also advised the board in the agenda meeting, my ego's not so big that I'm not going to turn to the board when it's time to go to outside counsel for counsel and board experience.
So do we need to make a motion to go ahead and authorize Ronnie to do this then? Okay, I'd like to make that motion.
I think that authorization is getting a couple months ago, so we're good to go.
That's, okay.
Any other comment from the board? Okay. You'll give us a report update next month on it, Ron?
I will. You'll hear about it, just look forward to you're sick of it.
Also, too, Marcia, when will you have available to us the request I've made in the agenda meeting that we get the linear footage of the amount of sewer that needs to be installed, the linear footage of the roads that had to have top coat, and of course then linear footage of the roads that need to have a base coat and a top coat.
I did give that information to you verbally. I'll be happy to put that in writing to you and send it in an email tomorrow.
Okay. Well, no, you kind of gave a rough estimate. No, I'm wanting, what I'd like to see is a map of the settings with lines on it that shows exactly what we've got to have, not just a rough estimate, but so that we know exactly what we are talking about.
I'll have staff work on that immediately.
So if you recall, we think Wendell Howard probably has that. I think Councilor wrote that out.
I'm suspecting that one of
I think he does. I think he does.
Anticipating in the past that he was about
That he was going to do the work.
We had that also. We had an engineer do an estimate of the cost and all the specific dimensions.
If you'll coordinate that with the town manager, we appreciate it.
Give that to her to save her a little bit of time. Thank you.
Clarification.
Sure.
On the settings, was that a voluntary annexation?
Yes.
That was voluntary annexation.
In exchange for, or was there an exchange or anything concerned, or were there any other stipulations attached to it?
None. From what I recall, the settings asked to be annexed, anticipating, and then there was, we went through some steps to make sure we had or could get the water to provide that to the settings. But that was not a condition of their, we didn't condition water on their being annexed.
Okay. Any other questions? No, we'll move to number 6, operating budget overview.
Mr. Mayor, our staff will give a very short presentation just to provide the audience a summary of what you have already been provided on June 1st. Then you will, and we have a couple of items specifically that we would like to give presentations on, and then you will be in a position to open the public hearing on the budget. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Finance Director, Dean Luby, who will begin the presentation on the financial condition and budget overview.
Board of Aldermen and Mayor, it's an honor to speak to you tonight. I'm going to briefly give the financial condition of the town of Black Mountain for the end of fiscal year 11, which ends on June 30th coming up, and then talk briefly about what we're projecting for fiscal year 12. In the general fund, which is about 80% of our expenditures, we're expecting expenditures to exceed revenues by almost $400,000 in fiscal year 11. This chart shows how, what that really means is that we're dipping into fund balance to balance fiscal year 11. This chart shows how we've done that in some past years. Some years the general fund makes a little bit of money, other years it loses a little bit of money. In this $400,000, $250,000 of that is the golf course transfer that the board approved 2 or 3 sessions ago. Almost 50% of all general fund revenues come from property taxes and motor vehicle taxes. There are 3 components of this revenue for the town: the property values, the collection rate, and the actual tax rate. Property values, as we all know, have shown very little growth in the last couple of years, and a revaluation is not scheduled until 2014. From 1995 until 2006, on average, property values grew by 10% a year in Black Mountain. From 2007 up until 2011, we've been at a pace of less than 2%. So that right there can explain why a lot of the revenues have sort of come to a flat line. Our collection rate is close to 99%, which is better than the state average. I can also remind you that of your tax bill, almost 60% of that goes to, over 60% goes to Buncombe County, and 40% ends up with the town. In our water fund, I'm projecting a $64,000 loss in fiscal year 11. The bulk of that is due to a $155,000 contribution that the water fund made for the sewer line extension that I finished up here in fiscal year 11. The golf fund is also, I'm projecting down close to $150,000. In fiscal year 10, the one-time marketing membership program inflated revenues in that year. I believe what we really probably should have done is all that revenue that came in, which was for 2 years actually, we should have deferred a portion of it and balanced it between both fiscal years. So in effect, revenues were higher last year than they probably should have been. For the fiscal year 12 budget coming up, the numbers here are revenue projections compared for fiscal year 11 to fiscal year 12. And the bottom line is they're basically flat. As you can see, we've had very little property growth. I did not include the SAFER grant revenue from fiscal year 11 in there because we decided to not include that in fiscal year 12. But for the most part, revenues are projected to be very flat. This slide shows sales tax revenue that the town has received for the last 5 or 6 fiscal years. It shows back in 07 we were over $1.1 million in sales revenue, and we've declined quite a bit. We're on the upswing again, and I'm projecting us close to $1 million this year, but we still have a ways to go to get back to fiscal year 7 levels. There is one bit of good news that I'd like to share. I did an analysis of building permit revenue for the last 36 months, and I'm obviously not including all 36 months there, but the January of 2010, there was one event, Ingalls paid us almost $110,000 for one building permit. But you can see the second and third place months are our last two previous months, and actually June of this year is on target to be close to 18,000 as well. I'm watching that number pretty closely because I feel that if that number stays healthy, that'll be a sign that my job will be a little bit easier at least. So I'm hoping that that number stays strong. I talked a little earlier about appropriated fund balance. Many counties and municipalities appropriate fund balance every year. And what they're basically saying is they're sort of planning on dipping into their savings every year to balance their budget. This is a history of how, we appropriate monies every year up to, we usually start at 250,000, sometimes it gets a little higher. In some years, we actually make money, and we do that by either holding expenditures way down, or else that's the common way of doing it. Sometimes revenues exceed expectations slightly. So the lines in the green, we actually increased our overall fund balance, even though when the year started, we were appropriating certain amounts. For fiscal year 11-12, the manager's recommended budget right now is appropriating $289,000, and we're certainly hoping that that will end up as a positive number at the end of fiscal year 12. This slide here shows overall fund balance percentage for municipalities of approximately our size, with our property values. At the end of fiscal year 10, we were at 42%. Brevard, which a lot of people feel is a good benchmark for us, was right around 40. The state average for our group is population 2,500 to 10,000. The state average is 68%. So we could increase slightly. That state average can be a little bit skewed sometimes. There are certain municipalities that have fund balance percentages of like 500%, little small communities that have quite a bit of funds in their fund balance. So we could certainly improve. I'm projecting right now at the end of fiscal year 11 that our fund balance percentage will go down to close to 30%. I guess that's on the slide. Okay. Our water and golf fund revenue budgets are largely flat compared to fiscal year 10-11 numbers. The water fund particularly has very stable revenues, and we would expect, I think, close to $1.3 million in water revenue.
Mr. Mayor, does the board have any questions regarding the current financial condition as we expect to end at June 30 of this year?
Do you know what the shortfall is for this year? Yeah.
For the general fund, I'm projecting it to be close to $400,000.
And we've appropriated $500,000 out of the fund balance at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, we started the year at $503,000, and there were some small increases, and then the golf course transfer got our current day appropriation up to, I think, $790,000. That $250,000 was a transfer to the golf course, so that increased our appropriation.
So what you're saying then is that it'll be 410 at the end of the year, including what was appropriated at the beginning of the year, plus the additional appropriations to the golf course.
I think, if I may interject, the budget includes an appropriation of $750,000 from the fund balance, but we will end up using $400,000 of that.
Well, I know, but the original budget didn't do that because we didn't do the 250 until later on, so.
You
know,
originally started at 500,000,
At 500.
and we will end up at 400,000.
And then we added 250,000. So we were at 700, we were $750,000, and we're gonna end up $410,000 in the hole. Using that from the fund
Using
balance.
that much, we will not return it to fund balance, so it's actually better, it's not, you don't add the 400,000 to the 750. It is using 400 of the 750
No, I
that was
realize that, but I'm
budgeted.
just wanting the folks to understand that we're 400,000, we lost $400,000.
Yeah, that's an accurate statement.
And that was with the 4.5% tax increase that we had this past year.
Any other questions for Dean before we move on to the highlights of the proposed budget? Thank you, Dean. I am grateful to the work of our entire leadership team, and especially to Dean, who has been in place as finance director for just a little over a month and a half. We have worked very hard trying to get to a point of making some recommendations to you and trying to be faithful to the direction that you provided me at your last retreat. I would like to take this time now just to highlight the most important elements of the proposed budget. I would like to remind you that each of you have detailed budgets. We have detailed budgets, hard copies of those available in the town clerk's office and at the public library, and the budget is also available online for review on the town's website. First of all, on the revenue side of the proposed budget, we are proposing no change in the property tax rate from last year, with the rate remaining at 36.5 cents per $100 valuation. Just as a point of reference, every penny on the tax rate in the town of Black Mountain generates approximately $90,000. The fire district tax rate is not something that this board sets, but is set by Buncombe County, but because the fire district tax also supports our fire department, which provides the fire and rescue services in the areas outside the town limits. It is called the East Buncombe Fire District, so we serve from Swannanoa down to Broad River. That particular tax rate is 9 cents per $100 valuation. This does not affect the town residents, but does affect residents outside the town who pay this. And I just simply wanted you to know that the magnitude of that tax provides $780,000 in revenue toward the total cost of $1.2 million in fire services. We have not requested an increase from the Buncombe County Commissioners this year. We are proposing, as I have proposed for 2 years in a row, it has never been initiated, but we are proposing again the initiation of a new solid waste fee in the amount of $6 per household per month, effective January 1, 2012. This fee would realize $150,000 in the current fiscal year, because we're only dealing with a half year, but would generate $300,000 per year thereafter. Every dollar of fee as a solid waste fee would generate about $50,000 per year. Just as a point of reference, the cost of our solid waste services in Black Mountain is $750,000 per year. So to get 100% cost recovery for that particular service would require a fee of $15 per household per month. One of the things that we have talked about is trying to recoup the cost of solid waste disposal, but not the cost of recycling, in order to encourage increased recycling in the community. So that's a long-term goal behind this particular fee. This is also in preparation. We have two more years left on our contract with GDS, which provides all of our solid waste services. And we know that we've had a lot of citizen requests for additional solid waste services, for handling solid waste in different ways. Some of those are things that will cost the town more money if we are to pursue a higher level of service. Therefore, instituting this fee on an incremental basis is also in preparation for what we anticipate to be increased fees if we were to go to a renewed contract, whether it's with GDS or some other firm. And certainly if we were to consider bringing service back in-house, we would be anticipating higher costs. With regard to the water fund, we are suggesting this year, although we have traditionally passed along increases that the town receives from the wholesale purchase of water from the city of Asheville. We are proposing no increase for our residents in the coming year, and that is partly in recognition of the fact that we are proposing an increase in solid waste fees. The rates currently are $5.25 per 1,000 gallons for in-town customers and $8.52 per 1,000 gallons for out-of-town customers. Also, as you know, approximately a third of our residents in Black Mountain are actually served directly by the city of Asheville water. The city of Asheville, and we usually try to keep charges comparable between Black Mountain charges and the city of Asheville so that we don't have part of our residents getting an increase when our Asheville residents don't, or Asheville water customers don't, and vice versa. We are going to be absorbing a 5% increase in wholesale rates from the city of Asheville, but simultaneously we have reduced our overall purchase and contract price with the city of Asheville, so we will actually be saving money rather than having to pass along that increase to the customers. So typically we increase water rates by 3 to 6%. Part of that is to set aside some capital reserve for infrastructure improvements as we need it down the road, but there will be no change this year. On the golf course rates, these are rates that the board has already approved in a previous meeting. We do not anticipate changes either in the annual membership rates or in the daily rates at this time. You can see that I won't go through all of those membership rates, but you can see starting with juniors for $170, that's unlimited play in each of these categories. So as you can see, these are very reasonable rates for playing golf at the Black Mountain course. We do observe an inside and outside rate depending on whether you're a taxpayer or resident. Daily rates here are very competitive with other area courses, and there is no increase proposed there. Also, Dean has already mentioned fund balance. It's very typical for towns to use the fund balance to balance a budget every year. In some years, we don't have to use that fund balance, and the fund balance itself grows. In other years, we actually do use the fund balance, and in those cases, the fund balance overall drops. In the current budget, we are estimating the need for using $290,000 out of fund balance, which will go beyond the policy that the board has set. The board's approved minimum is 30.5% available fund balance, and what that means is that we are trying to hold in savings at least 30% of the total expenditures of the general fund budget. The fund balance is used for a number of things: emergencies, to be able to take advantage of opportunities that come along during the year. It's for cash flow purposes because our revenues are very cyclical and don't come in evenly across the course of the year. So it's necessary to keep a certain level of fund balance in order to just provide for your ongoing operations. The state of North Carolina requires that all cities have a minimum of 8% fund balance, which represents 1 month's operating expenses. Our board has established a policy of 30.5%, and this budget will actually take that down below that desired policy to 26%, which is 1/4 of operating expenses. Since 2006, this was reflected in the chart that Dean showed you a moment ago, fund balance has grown in a given year by as much as $181,000 and has decreased by as much as $400,000, which is what we're expecting in the current year, for a 5-year net loss of $270,000. Our fund balance has actually been reduced by $270,000 over the last 5 years. On the expenditure side of the proposed budget, I simply wanted to make note, in all of our funds, we have identified ongoing needs in order to maintain current levels of service and programming and to address the routine capital and operating expenses and to be good stewards of the properties and facilities and programs that we already have in place. we identified $11 million worth of actual ongoing needs. This is not a pie-in-the-sky kind of request. Our department directors actually requested more than that. But this is legitimately what our staff feels is necessary in order to continually improve and maintain the level of programming that we have going on in the town now and has historically been developed by the leadership of this board. Unfortunately, in the next year, we expect to have only $9.1 million available in revenue. So the gap with all of our funds of what we would really like to be able to do and what we can do is $2 million. Just wanted to point out that most of the time when we're talking about budgetary items, we're talking about general fund activities. This is the majority of the departments and the work that's accomplished in the town of Black Mountain: fire, police, public services, recreation, planning and development, administrative services. These are all things that are primarily tax supported. We do operate 2 businesses which are almost entirely fee supported, and they are intended to be that way in that the ratepayers pay 100% of the cost of those activities, and that's the water fund and the golf fund. So what comprises the general fund? Well, obviously we divide costs by department, but we also divide costs by the type of expenditure it is. In any municipality, the greatest cost is in personnel cost. In the town of Black Mountain, overall, in the general fund, 51% of everything expended is in personnel. Operating costs comprise 38%, and you can see what a small amount of money is actually expended toward capital improvements and debt service, 4.5% and 6.5% respectively. Except for the Public Services Department, which is heavy in materials, because that's our streets department, and you know, we have lots of material associated with ongoing maintenance activities related to public services. In all of our other departments, personnel costs comprise anywhere from 65 to 82% of all departmental budgets. Why are we anticipating such large operating deficits in the coming year, and why are we having to make some difficult decisions ahead? First of all, Dean has already mentioned we've had little recovery from the recession. It's been slow. We don't anticipate any increase in revenues over the next 2 to 3 years. So we're not only talking about this next year, 11-12, but we've got to be planning also for operations in the next couple of years following. We have experienced, as he mentioned before, flat or reduced revenues. We're fortunate that we haven't had greater reductions than we have. We have some good signs, some small signs that building is picking back up with the permits issued, but sales tax continues to be significantly down from what it was just 3 years ago. We continue to see, even though we have held the line on expenses, we've created some savings through efficiency measures, through reorganizations, through doing business in different ways, but even in the midst of recession, we are experiencing increased costs. This past year, we've seen general inflation of about 3.4%. Fuel costs have risen. Of course, they peaked, fell, and now they're coming back up. We are tied in, all of our employees are tied into the state system for retirement and medical benefits. This is something that we have no control over. Because we are a participant in that, we simply have to absorb the costs that are passed along to us from the state. And last year, for example, we experienced an 11% increase in our costs for retirement contributions with the state. We also, the town has also had a long history of deferring maintenance in order to make balanced budgets in years past. So we are finding ourselves more and more often in a position of having to address maintenance and repair needs on an emergency basis. When you continually defer maintenance and repairs and preventive maintenance, then what ends up happening is that we have unexpected expenses, and that is some of what has happened in the last couple of years in terms of needing to dip into fund balance. We have also, in the past few years, absorbed a number of cost increases without having any supporting revenue. When we did renew the GDS sanitation contract a couple of years ago, that was a $170,000 increase from the previous year, and that came with absolutely no additional revenue. So we have, there are a number of sources where we have absorbed cost increases without passing that along in any way, and we have absorbed it by doing things smarter, better, more efficiently, or less expensively. As we've already focused on, there's been a continued use of our savings account, the fund balance, in order to pay. At this point, anytime you are losing money out of your fund balance in a given year, oftentimes what's happening is that you're paying for ongoing expenses and not replenishing that savings account. So you can only do that so long before you catch up and get to a point that there are no more savings. While it's a fund balance is an appropriate source to go to, particularly in hard economic times and for one-time expenditures or long-term investments, it is not wise to use the fund balance in order to pay the light bill. This board has taken a very bold stance in meeting some obligations, long-standing obligations, and taking advantage of the one-year opportunity provided by the federal government in stimulus funding. So in the last 3 years, there has been more emphasis on capital development in this community. We've had everything from the pool completion to sewer installation to some ADA improvements, stormwater improvements, sidewalk installation. These are all things that required some participation on the part of the town, but we leveraged federal dollars in most cases on a one-to-one basis. It was a 50-50 share, and so the board took on some additional debt in these last few years, which is another reason for having dipped into fund balance. But these were once-in-a-lifetime opportunities. The pool project, for example, was $1 million project for which the town only had to pay $500,000. The sidewalk project actually turned out to be 100% federal funding. The idea behind fund balance is to be able to take advantage of those kinds of opportunities when they arise. Nonetheless, the additional capital expenditures, town squares, sewer extensions, the pool, and so forth, have all together joined in to make our debt service higher in recent years. I say that and want to emphasize that it is not. There has been so much publicity about the town square property that I simply want people to understand that is only one small piece in the puzzle of debt and why the town carries debt. Traditionally, the town has also accepted grants for operating expenditures and gifts of property and facilities from private sources that oftentimes come initially at no cost to the town and are great because it allows us to grow programs and grow our facilities, but when that money runs out, then all of a sudden we have an addition to our operating costs. And that's the case that we're experiencing. We have several staff positions that have been created over the years by the receipt of grants that then become difficult to pay for without increasing revenues down the road to pay for them. And finally, I mentioned this before, we've had a delay in providing some legally obligated expenditures, most notably some expenditures associated with the annexations of 1988, I believe was the year. That is the reason this board has with great sense of purpose has taken on an obligation that the town has had languishing out there for 25 years and have made good on those original promises to provide equitable services to people in those annexed areas. Likewise, a 1991 law, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, required that the town make certain accommodations for accessibility of programs and facilities, and this board has taken very seriously its obligation. Unfortunately, that's a cost that has, that had been done at the time would certainly have been cheaper, but we're, pleased to be moving forward on each of those. Back in the fall, when we had a a workshop with the Board of Aldermen and staff. I received several directives from this board, and we have tried to be faithful to those directives. First and foremost was that there was a desire to maintain low property tax rates, that there would be no new taxes this coming year. The board agreed that maintaining fiscal soundness of the organization was of paramount importance. This does not, the next item does not, has never been a huge part of the general fund budget, but at one time the town of Black Mountain did make some contributions to outside agencies, and that was virtually eliminated last year, and with the understanding that we would not be making those kinds of contributions to outside agencies this year. And finally, I think it's recognizing the impact of the recession on all of our citizens. I think in all decisions, the board has very much wanted to consider the citizens' pocketbook in the midst of this economic decline, and try to keep, while we all have to share the responsibility and the pain, we only want to make the pain no greater for citizens than necessary. Unfortunately, in a town that has great diversity like Black Mountain does, there is a great difference of opinion on what priorities we should be observing. I think you see that diversity of opinion on our board, and I think they are fairly representative of the diversity within the community. For whatever reason, in Black Mountain, we have achieved a certain level of service and programming that is valued by a number of citizens, a large majority of citizens, and therefore our goal has been to try to maintain, to the extent possible, those services and programs which have developed over time in response to the expectations of the community. Unfortunately, we still have an unbalanced budget for next year, and therefore these are the recommendations that the staff and I have put together as a starting point for discussion among the Board of Aldermen. This coming year's budget at this point contains no expenditure for any new capital and equipment replacement, with the exception of Powell bill funds, which are provided to us from the state, from the gas taxes. We receive about $200,000 a year in Powell bill funds, which are spent directly on street and sidewalk maintenance. I've already mentioned our commitment to ADA accessibility improvements, and the coming year's budget currently includes $100,000 for accessibility barrier removal, primarily at 2 recreation facilities, particularly Rec Park and Carver. At this time, we are recommending, we have not received notice one way or the other about whether the town will receive the SAFER grant, which is a program which would provide for 6 new firefighter positions. This grant provides 100% of salary and benefits for 2 years, but does not provide any of the startup training equipment costs. Therefore, in the current year, or up to this point, we had $32,000 allocated for the startup costs for SAFER. So by cutting this out of next year's budget, it does not save us very much money in the current year, but our greater concern is the fact that this program would cost us an additional $300,000 in 2 years, and along with the training equipment and so forth, startup rate, it would be almost 4 cents on the tax rate to support these 6 additional firefighters. I will be the first to tell you that I believe our town needs additional firefighters in order to meet the standards that the state sets forth for safety and coverage. I think our fire department does an excellent job of providing service, and I think the fire department continues to make a case for why they need additional staffing. This is one of the departments where we continually have difficulty managing our overtime and comp time, simply because this is a 24-hour-a-day operation. If someone is off or someone is sick, there is nobody else to replace them. The ones who replace that person who's gone is also generating comp time or overtime. So, you get to a point at some point that when you're spending that much overtime, you would be far better to go ahead and hire new positions rather than rack up personnel costs at time and a half. However, given the magnitude of this addition to the general fund budget, we are recommending declining that if in fact we receive the grant. I'd like to talk a little bit about personnel costs because before I made the point that when we've already cut out capital and we've already reduced operating costs, the only place left to go is in personnel expenses. I already mentioned that the town absorbed an 11% increase from the state last year, and we have received notice just today that we will be having to bear additional increases for state retirement and medical coverage costs. We don't yet know what that figure is, but that simply means that we've got additional costs to absorb in this budget that have not been planned for. We are proposing no cost of living increase or merit adjustments for any of our employees. We are certainly grateful to this board last year for providing a very modest 1.5% adjustment for employees at a time that it was difficult to do so. We feel very good about where our employee salaries are up to that point last year, in that they had in fact kept up with cost of living increases. But again, the CPI suggests that cost of living is going up somewhere between 3 and 3.5% in the current year. So certainly this is a difficult decision not to compensate employees further in that way. We are also recommending a reduction of the longevity benefit by 1/2 for 1 year. This is a program that has been in place for many, many years that encourages employees decreases employee turnover by encouraging them to stay through a longevity bonus. It is not a significant amount of money. It ranges on an individual basis from $50 per person up to a maximum of $1,000 per employee. But certainly under the current economic conditions, we are suggesting at this point that that be reduced. We are recommending freezing 3 vacant positions for 1 year. At this point, the budget still includes funding, or includes a budgetary item for these 3 positions because we feel that those are critical positions to the organization, but we are willing to hold them vacant as a means to replace the fund balance that will be needed in order to balance the budget. We have looked at different ways of providing service where if there's a possibility of privatizing service in order to and still provide the same level of service without committing ourselves to long-term employment and additional benefits, then we are in the process of looking at that. And then finally, we looked at reducing approximately $400,000 all total in salary and wages through a permanent reduction in force based on board goals and priorities. I know that there's been a lot of, after the newspaper article, there's probably been a lot of discussion and talk about which programs or which positions are being deallocated. The fact is that they have not been identified. We took an average salary, based on the $400,000, and said this is what we need to get out of personnel costs. So we have not identified at this point particular positions or particular programs for reduction because we feel like at this point that it is the board's prerogative to determine what those goals and priorities are. Certainly if the board directs us to reduce a certain number of positions or have the staff identify, we are in position to do that. But our focus is trying to get away from actual positions and say, well, what programs or what level of service or what quality of service are you willing to do without in order to balance this budget? From that, then there will be a natural decision on where in the budget we need to make additional cuts. So what does it mean if we do have to reduce force? Well, we've already engaged in a considerable amount of cost cutting and efficiency building and productivity improvements and cost control over the last 3 years. The fact that we have not used all of the fund balance that we budgeted to balance the budget in each of these years is testament to that fact. We're actually looking at a 4% decrease in our general fund budget overall, And when you take out the fund balance itself as a contributing factor, we actually are looking at anywhere from 11 to 15% decrease in next year's general fund budget over what we were actually spending 2 years ago. But anytime you talk about cutting personnel, you can't do that without impacting the level, quality, or number of services and programs. So I don't want anybody to think that we can cut 9 or 10% of our workforce and this much out of the budget without it impacting programs in some way. And I already mentioned that our emphasis is on program priorities and service priorities rather than on positions. I think for any organization, a reduction in force is sort of a last resort. It's the last thing that we would want to do. So what else did we consider along the way? Well, we analyzed each of these opportunities, employee furloughs, just sending folks home for a period of time and not paying them. However, with the municipality, we have a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. We don't have the luxury of just sending people home and having them stop work. We looked at reducing hours for all of our employees rather than eliminating some. Looked at from a 40 to a 35-hour work week. Again, because the vast majority of the cost and employees in our general fund is associated with our fire and police departments. Those are 24-hour-a-day operations. We simply cannot reduce it without adding more positions. So we get very little financial benefit of a reduction in hours across the board. And furthermore, all that does is put considerable pressure on our exempt employees who are paid a set salary no matter how many hours they work. They would simply have to pick up the slack without any additional compensation. And then 5 hours a week per employee is a significant reduction in what you could accomplish in a given week. We've talked about voluntary separation incentive and retirement buyouts. The fact of the matter is that in reviewing our employee roster, we actually have so few people who are close enough to retirement that we could afford, we simply couldn't afford to buy them out. We're talking people who are, 3, 5, 10 years away from retirement. We didn't have anybody who was just sitting there waiting to retire. In fact, we only have one retirement scheduled in the current year, and that is an August 1st retirement. So that's not even a realistic opportunity for us from a financial standpoint. We talked about reducing employee benefits further. Our employees lost an entire program last year. It was a disease management wellness program. Already, we're obviously suggesting that they're going to lose the longevity bonus this year and have no opportunity for COLA or merit. We recognize the high cost of medical coverage. And in talking with our employees, it was felt that the benefit was far greater than salary. So we have in fact tried to preserve the benefit for our employees. And in fact, because of the way our medical care is set up, we are tied into the state system for that, and it would take an act of the legislature actually to move us out. So other than having employees share in the cost of the benefit, we don't even have the option of doing away with it unless we pull out entirely. We've considered actually dipping further into the general fund on a short-term basis. But I think some of our board have expressed concern. I certainly expressed concern. When I look to the rest of the country and what's happened, for example, in Joplin, Missouri, and some of the other areas that have had such bad weather conditions, frankly, I would be very nervous about dropping our fund balance any further than a quarter of operating expenses, because if we were to ever face a true emergency, it would be difficult to recover. Finally, we've also looked at promoting new revenues. One was mentioned here tonight, the ABC mixed beverage revenue. That would probably be one of the easiest revenues that the town ever realized if it were to pass. I'm not trying to make a statement one way or the other on anyone's feelings about whether that you should vote on it or not vote on it. I'm not dealing with it as a moral issue or whatever, simply as a source of revenue. That is a new source of revenue that could be available. We also looked at even higher solid waste fees, trying to get to closer to 100% cost recovery earlier. If after all of the discussions with the board do lead to a reduction in force, what happens to our employees? Well, currently in the budget, what we have proposed is that the reduction in force be effective July 1st, but with a 6-week severance payout. Employees would also be eligible for full accumulated vacation, whatever they have accumulated in vacation leave, that would either be paid out in cash or at their discretion could be converted to sick leave, which would help some employees with retirement benefits, but we would leave that as an employee option. The 6-week severance would be full salary and benefits, so that would be through August 15th. Each of these employees would be eligible for unemployment benefits, transition assistance, and free tuition and books for selected courses through AB Tech, which are aimed at enhancing reemployability. One of the reasons in the proposed budget, we are not realizing the full value of savings of reduction in force, simply because when you add back in 6 weeks of severance, full vacation payout, and the anticipated unemployment benefits, which the town must return, even though those are paid through the state, the town has to reimburse those costs. We really don't end up saving much in the proposed budget, but it is in preparation for being able to weather the next couple of years of difficult budgets. So what comes next? The board has received this recommendation. There are 2 additional budget workshops scheduled for June 21st at 8:30 a.m. and June 28th at 8:30 a.m. I know that many of our board members have already considered other options at this point. This budget becomes their budget. It is no longer my budget. We will spend the next several weeks looking at other options, doing additional research and providing information to the board as they require it. And these proposed budget numbers may change many times over the course of the next 2 weeks before the budget is adopted. By law, the town has to have the budget adopted by June 30th, and if it cannot adopt a budget for the next fiscal year, it must adopt at least a continuation budget that would continue until the final budget is adopted. So that's the highlights of what's in the budget for next year. Mr. Mayor, I'd entertain any questions. But
what is your proposed net revenue on this new solid waste fee?
It's $150,000 in the first year at $6, but on an annualized basis would generate $300,000.
How are you going to implement it? You got to have administrative costs.
We do. Yes, we would. And we are looking at 2 possibilities. We're looking at in-house billing as well as having the county bill it for us.
So you don't know what that cost will be?
We do not know. We are anticipating a per bill cost from Buncombe County that's typical, would go out with property tax bills and therefore would be the least expensive option. But we do not have a firm cost on that at this point.
What does MSD pay right now for us to do that? Is it a little $1?
I believe it's $1 or $1.50 per bill. Okay, is what we are given for billing them.
All right. So if we just use that similar $1.50 is what they would charge, then we're looking somewhere close to probably the cost of an employee, $40,000, $40,000 to $50,000 to implement the program.
Could be, yes.
I didn't catch the cost under the expenditure side for the sewer for the 4 houses on Blue Ridge Road. How much was that?
Are you talking about the additional this board approved an additional extension beyond the original project. The cost of that was approximately $50,000 we had an arrangement with the MSD to pay. We paid half.
So we paid $25.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But also that is financed over 20 years?
The full project is, not the additional. You all actually appropriated fund balance in order to pay that additional $25,000 for those 4 residents.
And of course, the reason that was done is because it was not put on the original documents that we had to look at that is to provide sewer. Those people were unfortunately left off of that. So we just had to come back to do what was right.
Well, yes, if you recall that the original design was created 25 years ago when annexation took place, and it should have been installed at that time. We've had additional development since then. The board adopted a design in 2007, and that is the design that we were operating from.
That's the same case with the ADA compliance way back in 1991. It was not done, and we've had to pick up the ball now and go with it. Eventually, the state would have come down on us, and it would have cost us a whole lot more, possibly in lawsuits and other ramifications.
Mr. Mayor, we have one other short presentation if you're ready to move on. One of the things that you all have directed me to do is we've had a lot of discussion about the Black Mountain Golf Course, about operations. You all started in November with a workshop looking at all facets of the golf operation. As has been mentioned to you on previous occasions, for about the last 7 years, the golf course, the annual operation of the golf course has been spending more money than it has been taking in. Fortunately for the golf course, there were earlier years in which the golf course did generate a profit, and so very much like the general fund, the golf fund has been dipping into essence its savings account in order to survive on an annual basis. Last year, you were provided a report by the recreation director that we anticipated a $400,000 deficit as of the end of last year, and as a result of that, you approved a promotional membership that brought in a very fast infusion of revenue for the 1 year and allowed us to get through last year. You heard Dean mention the fact that the course is in the same shape. This year we have had over a time declining revenues while expenses have continued to rise. So this is obviously a business model that cannot continue to be allowed to go on. One of the directives you gave me back early in the winter, we looked at some organizational restructuring. You eliminated one position and directed me to hire a general manager for the course. As we got closer, as we started examining the budget activities this year and where we were going to end the current year, the more concerned I became about committing to hiring a full-time golf course general manager. And at which point I started looking at additional options for how we can manage this operation, being responsive to the concerns of the community that have been so eloquently expressed to you over the course of months, and make sure that we have the resources that our staff need in order to run a good operation. In light of that, I've looked at a number of outside opportunities, and also because we're looking at privatizing some of our other services, I began investigating other options. You all have certainly in the past talked about lease agreements and have chosen to not pursue those for very good reason. But we wanted to take a look at the possibility of engaging in a management services contract rather than hiring full-time staff. So to that end, I have invited a couple of gentlemen here tonight from Billy Casper Golf, which is based in Vienna, Virginia. We have Joe Goodrich, who is the senior vice president with them, and Douglas White, who's the vice president for business development. I chose these folks to come talk to us because they have such a great track record, particularly in the eastern part of the country, particularly in taking on municipal golf courses, particularly in the manner in which they have been able to turn around underperforming golf courses and generate profits in a relatively short order. They are certainly not the only company out there that provides this service, but in doing extensive reference checks and talking to golf courses that they have worked with, certainly I think what they have to offer, and certainly in terms of educating you and me and our staff in what's available in terms of resources and management services. I think they're great folks to talk to, so I hope that you will ask them whatever questions you have and consider this as we move forward in additional budget discussions. At this time, I'd like to welcome Douglas and Jeff.
Thank you very much.
And I'm getting to your thing here.
Thank you very much, first of all, for having us. My name is Joe Goodrich, with Billy Kaspergoff, Senior Vice President. I've been with the firm for 18 years. Actually, my background's a golf professional. I used to run golf courses. I started with the company when we were 5 golf courses. Home is Northern Virginia. Douglas White's been with our firm for approximately 4.5 years. Douglas was actually in the golf course management business, had his own management business. Right now he's based in Tampa, Florida, and works in looking for opportunities, people to help on basically the East Coast. This is what we've seen so far. Right now this is your golf course. You've got declining rounds in revenue. You've had to cut expenses, you've had to cut FTEs, and you've had to defer capital. Not unlike the discussion I just heard about from the town budget discussions. I spend my time traveling around the country looking for opportunities to help other golf courses, and I can tell you that this is the same situation that exists all over the country. Not just municipal golf courses, but also privately owned golf courses. Here's what we want for you. What we want for you is we want, instead of those numbers going down, we want revenues and numbers to go up. We want programming. We want a fun and enjoyable golf experience. We want different programming, and we want programs for golfers to enjoy the golf course on their individual basis, which means many different types. As you've seen, you have many different types of membership for juniors and families and things like that. We'd like to tailor some of those a little more. I'll get into that in a minute. There you go. I'm just going to give you, this is just an overview of the golf industry. How many of you golf? Okay. Here's what's happening within the golf industry. In 2005, we had 30 million golfers. 2010, we had about 25 million golfers. So the number of golfers, the number of people that are playing golf is going down. So we're in an industry that's not growing, we're in an industry that's shrinking, okay? So what does that mean? That means everybody's getting less golfers on their golf course. Here's the rounds of golf. In 2005, the industry recognized about 500 million rounds of golf. 2010, about 475. It's down about 5%. So what does that mean for somebody that owns a golf course? You want to know this information. You want to know, okay, well, we operate a golf course, and the pie, the people that are playing golf on a global basis in the market, is decreasing. So what do you have to do? You have to go steal market share, okay? This is the number of golf courses. This is why we're in this mess. The industry, you know, in 95, we were opening 336 new golf courses a year. We were opening almost one a day, okay? As you can see, in 2000, big crash, first crash. That just pretty much stopped. And as you can see, we've been on a decline ever since. You obviously in this market have experienced the same situation with the Cliffs and the Tiger golf course, and that, you know, where it's going to open, close markets, and it has an impact. What the National Golf Foundation is forecasting is that we'll probably open about between 40 and 50 golf courses a year, which is about one per state. And most of those golf courses are either they're private, they're high-end private, or they're related in some form or fashion to a residential community. The other thing that's happening is the number of golf courses that are closing is going up. So we've got, you know, on average between 100 and 150 golf courses a year that are closing. Okay, that's actually good if you're a golf course owner, so long as it's not your golf course. So what does that mean in terms of net growth? Net growth means that what is happening in the overall golf course, number of golf courses? Well, we're losing golf courses. So we talked about volume of golfers, the number of people that are playing golf is going down. Also, the number of golf courses is going down too. Number of golf courses is going down by anywhere from 35 to 100. The National Golf Foundation has said that this trend is going to go on for about the next 10 years. So there's no big silver bullet. There's no, you know, we've all gotten over the Tiger Woods effect, going to bring in a whole bunch of people into golf. What does that mean? It means the golf course business is tough. It's getting more competitive. You're having to fight for your market share in your market. You're having to basically go steal golfers from other golf courses and get them to play your golf course. People are voting with their wallet. They're voting with their feet. It's like any other business. What that means is that it's like the restaurant business. People are going to go to the restaurant with the best food and the best service. They're going to go play the golf. They're going to go to the golf course with the best golf course conditions, the best service, as long as the price-value relationship is still in check and is reasonable. You've got to go win that battle in all the other golf courses in this market that are public golf course environment. Municipal golf. What's happening in municipal golf? There's about 16,000 golf courses in the country. About 4,500 of those are municipally owned. About 1,500 of those are 9-hole golf courses, and about 3,000 are 18-hole golf courses. Here's what municipalities are facing. Does this sound similar to what you just heard with what you're facing in other departments and municipalities? I can tell you you're not alone, not only within North Carolina, you're not alone across the entire country. I was in San Francisco last week, golf course right across from Google's head campus, or Google's main campus in San Francisco, town of Mountain View. They have a golf course called Shoreline Links. They're hurting, they're looking for help. What are they facing? Increasing labor burden, increasingly competitive environment. Overall, operating a golf course is highly technical. Growing grass and maintaining greens at 5:30 seconds, and all that skill set. You're running a business. You're having to market a business. You're having to do websites. You're having to do email. You're having to manage people. You're having to operate a business in a competitive environment. That's technical. Municipalities lack the resources and experience. Most golf course owners own one golf course. So what does that mean? If you only own one, you don't have a lot of opportunities to get economies of scale. You don't have a lot of opportunities to take what you learned today and apply it to your next opportunity, your next golf course, your next golf course. So you're dealing in your knowledge and your understanding is limited to that one facility, and your opportunities to learn more or to gain other resources is limited. Currently, we do a lot of municipal work. I'll get into that in a minute. We have 14 RFPs that are currently out there just in the month of June. We'll see over 120 municipalities which are going to issue an RFP for help in operating their golf course. They basically said, we need to privatize, we need to do something different. So they're either issuing an RFP or they're going through a selection process to find a firm. The other thing that the municipalities lack is they lack the experience in hiring the right people. How many of you have hired a golf course superintendent in this room? How many of you have hired more than one golf course superintendent? How many of you have hired more than 5 golf course superintendents? How many of you have hired 10 golf course superintendents? How many of you have hired more than 5 directors of golf or general managers? How many of you have hired more than 5 people that know to go market a golf course? Not a lot. If I was in a room filled with golf course owners, which the town is, the results wouldn't be much different. The reality is most golf course owners hire a golf professional once every 7.5 to 10 years. They hire a superintendent about every 7.5 to 10 years. So they don't do the process a lot. So they're sitting there with candidates that for a general manager and okay, what do we ask them? Don't know, because we just haven't done it. It's okay. So you also lack the systems and the processes to go market golf. It's just not structured that way. It's no one's fault. People are good people. They all want to do the right thing. They just don't do it a lot. One of the things that we've talked about with Marcy was just management company. And that was introduced. And usually when you say the word management company, you might as well yell the word fire in a crowded theater. What does that mean? Okay, we're going to outsource our management options for the golf course. I'm going to tell you what it's not. First of all, in a management company structure, you're hiring a firm like us to come in and operate your business and act as your agent. You're the client. We work for you. Our success is defined by meeting your needs, whether that's service levels, that's financial, whatever that is, you determine what good is, and we work for you. You approve everything. You approve rates. You approve operating policies. You approve membership programs. You approve staffing levels. You also approve all of our operating expenses. You are in control. So that means that we can't come in and go, guess what? You know, your membership program, we're getting rid of that. Can't do it. When people hear when I sat with John and Brett earlier today, and we had to talk a little bit about what a management company structure was, that was a little surprising to them. They thought that no, they lose control, or that somebody's going to come in there and tell them what to do. What our goal is as a firm, management companies, is basically to deliver value and save you money, because we're doing this a lot of other places. Any questions on this? Any questions on this structure? Let me tell you a little bit about Billy Casper Golf. We were founded in 1989. We're privately held. Our goal, I've been with the firm almost 19 years. I'm a vested member within the firm. We have no outside debt on the firm. And our goal is to operate the best management platform in the industry. We like providing value and solving problems. We operate 130 golf courses. We're the largest operator of daily fee golf in the country. We have over 70 municipal golf courses. We're the largest municipal golf course operator in the country. With large, it's good. It gives us a ton of economies. We've spent a lot of money on systems and processes, training people, hiring people, marketing, managing, supporting. I have an entire staff back in Northern Virginia, accounting, payroll, IT, labor, risk management. List goes on and on. All those things that you need to do to go run a business, we have all that. The other thing that we have is we have a very decentralized management structure. So we have people in marketing, agronomy, and operations that are out in the field and close to this golf course. We actually have a team of people in Knoxville, Tennessee, less than an hour and a half away, that could actually help oversee this. Our company, we have 7,500 employees. We'll do about 4.5 million rounds of golf. It's a lot of golfers. So what did we have to do? We had to create a system to train people to deliver a good golf experience, and we had to create a system to handle 4.5 million rounds of golf. And we have to do it good. We have to be successful. 1.8 million unique contactable golfers. We're very big into contacting golfers and understanding their play history so that we can go market to them. And I'll tell you what that means in a minute. Here's our facilities. Every flag you see is a golf course. Every star that you see is where we have regional support. Here's your market. I mentioned the 3 golf courses in Knoxville. We also operate golf courses in North Carolina as well, South Carolina, and Georgia. Here's a list of our municipal clients. These are the people we work for. Our renewal rate with those municipal clients is 100%. If they're not happy, they don't retain us. If you're not net better off, you should get rid of us. We don't want to be involved in a situation where you're not net better off. It's kind of our company motto, and it actually serves us pretty well. We're a big believer in First Tee. We work very closely with the First Tee and junior golfer development programs in those locations. We also successfully transition. So whenever you're talking about operating something and then moving to privatization, it's an uneasy time. You got transition issues. We've transitioned over 80 golf courses in the last 5 years. We have a dedicated transition team. It's seamless, and it's actually a very good process. Employees that go through that, the customers that go through that, the members that go through it, and you as a town, as our client potentially, you'd appreciate it. All right. That's your staff right now. They got a balancing act of doing a whole bunch of different things, and they're one person on this ball. They've got to be, so your general manager, they've got to be an expert in managing people, training people, serve as a marketing function, scheduling, taking care of guests, all those things that are in charge of running a business. That's what they're doing. with not a lot of support. And I mean that because they don't have a lot of other support to draw upon. What we do as a company is we provide that support. We provide all the tools, all the systems, and all the processes for them as a resource to go be successful. I'm just going to walk you through some examples here. This is the city of Cincinnati. We've been operating the city of Cincinnati's golf courses we've actually been renewed there twice. They have 7 golf courses. This is what they said. We were volume driven, didn't compromise price or value. We took over those facilities in 2003. There was $1 million growth of revenue in 7 years. Expenses grew less than 2%. No changes to rates, no changes to policies, no changes, there's no hocus pocus. It's basically same operating program, same rates. All we did is come out, be more efficient, train the people better, put out a better product, and market the heck out of it. How do we do that? How do we deliver that guest experience? We call it ACE the guest experience. For those of you that aren't golfers, if you get an ACE, it's a hole-in-one. That's a really good thing. So we created this boring little thing, ACE the guest experience. What this is a training program we spend over $500,000 developing, and we roll it out, and that's how we train those 7,000 employees every year. We basically look at what that golf experience is from each one of these checkpoints. Very similar if you were in the hotel business, you have checkpoints or touch points. It's when you make your reservation, it's when you walk into the lobby, it's when you first walk down the hallway and get out of the elevator, and you go, oh my God, I hope the room's okay, I hope the room's okay, I hope the room's okay. You open up the door, and that's your moment of truth. In the hotel industry, that's your touch point. What's the first thing you do when you walk into that hotel room? Golf course is pretty much the same thing. Right when you, as soon as that golfer gets to the golf course for the first time, what's it going to be like? What's it going to be like? Same number. Our goal is to basically train our staff so that they can excel in every one of those touch points. We do mystery shops to make sure we're doing a good job. We provide this information to you as our client, and as well as to the staff on site and the people and the managers. It's great information. We use it to coach, and we use it to reward. Chicago Park District. The Chicago Park District also owns and controls Soldier Field as well as the marina in downtown Chicago. They've been a client of ours. 7 golf courses, 1 18-hole golf course, 1 driving range. And most of theirs are 9-hole facilities, and they're very municipal in nature. They're affordable golf in an urban environment, and I'll tell you what, they're fantastic. What we did in Chicago Park District is first we recreated their brand, gave them a new logo. Here's what we did. Blue lines is when we took over. Red was another operator. They had already outsourced. They were just deciding on a different company to run their operation. 33% increase in rounds and revenue. No change in rates, no changes in membership, no changes in programs or policies. This is training people properly, marketing the heck out of it, and putting together a good product. How do we do that? How do we market it? Targeted marketing. Improve financial outcomes for our taxpayers in a relatively short period of time. Fox Valley Park District outside of Chicago. We took over their golf course. We actually operate this golf course on a lease. They were actually losing about $400,000 a year. We turned that around to a positive in 1 year. Our business model, we have 130 golf courses. We own 10 golf courses. We lease another 46. And then we do third-party management or a management structure for the balance. My point is that out of those 56, we are vested operators of golf. We own golf courses. This is our business. We're just not out here selling snake oil. This is our business. This is where the economics are. We develop systems and processes to make us better and more efficient. Improve feedback. Yeah, people can, these will be, that's a sign that's at the counter. So if they don't like something or they want to give us a call, they call that number, they leave a message. That message is a WAV file that goes to our regional team and then goes to the general manager. So they get that message. When we rolled this program out, you can tell how happy our GMs were. Oh, great. Guess what? 75% of those calls right now are positive, telling us what a great job we're doing. Thank you very much for fixing this. Johnny's great. Jane's fantastic. Thank you very much for all your help. It's actually been a great reinforcement tool. How do we do it? This is reservations. We put in an electronic T-sheet so that people could make reservations by phone, through a call center, online through the internet, or also obviously at the golf shop. Each one of those golfers would be tracked. You see that member card, that's a player card. So every type of membership program you have, they have a card. Scan a unique identifier. And then we track how many times they played, when they played, how much they spent. Our data capture, out of those 4.5 million rounds, we capture about 85% of those golfers. 85% of those golfers, we know who they are. No one else is doing that in the industry because they don't think like that.
Joe, it might be a good time to mention too, you'll see gaps in there sometimes where the gangs, the Geritals, the standing groups that play are already blocked out on the tee sheet, and that access is available just as it is now, so nothing really changes.
That's right. So you've got, from a management standpoint, basically the same thing you have now, only we're adding some technology to it. So what this means is that at the end of the month, at the end of the year, at the end of the week, we're able to tell who played the most, who spent the most, and after about a year, after about 6 months, we have a lot of data that we then use that information to go develop our programs. I know you had a program that recently where you sold a membership that allowed people to play for $15 or $10 a cart fee. That was a great effort to go drive revenue. However, sitting here today, we don't know how many times those people played, how much they spent, or whether or not it was good or bad. We have no analysis for that. All we know is that we sold this many and we did about this many rounds in total. So what that means, we have to treat that group the same. If you think about it from a hotel standpoint or an airline standpoint, rental car standpoint, it'd be like marketing your rate to the person that just played you 20 times last month, and you would send that person the same message that hasn't played you in 6 months. Makes no sense. That's what we're doing here. We're basically making and developing programs that people want. So we're able to tell if people are playing more frequently or they're playing less frequently. Then our messages change depending upon what we see. So all of our programs are based on fact and numbers that we sit down with you, sit down with the town, go, here's what we're seeing, here's what we think we should do, and here's what the opportunities are. And we make those decisions based on fact. Here's a simple example. There's a golf course we actually own in Reston, Virginia. Reston National does about 55,000 rounds of golf a year. Very busy place. But who's playing? Well, we've got 45 people who are playing more than 80 times. And we've got 5,600 that played it once. And 3,600 played it 2 to 5 times. Each one of our golf courses is very different. This golf course wouldn't look like this. Your golf course wouldn't look like this. We take that information. So guess what? What if I sent an email or a direct mail piece to those 9,000 people that played 5 or less times with an opportunity to say, if you want to come out and play 2 times in the next 30 days, you can save X. They weren't going to play anyway. But I sent them, so if I could get 20% of those 9,000, I could get 1,800 people to come out in the next 60 days. That'd be a pretty good bump they hadn't seen before. Now, if I sent that same message to the people that were going to play me 16 to 80 times, I just took my average rate and dropped it in the toilet. Okay? This is an overview in terms of what we're doing. It gets more technical than this, but that's what the data looks like. We don't know what your data is yet, but you need to find it out so you can be effective marketing. We do drive behavior based on those categories. Website, I learned today, you didn't have a website and you put one together and first time you did it, pretty good, okay? We have all those templates. We have all that set up so that you can be more efficient, more effective. It's customized programming, community inclusion, player development programs targeted to drive revenue at off-peak times. An example in Tulsa. They actually privatized their operation. Took over in 08, 33,000 round increase, no change in rates, no change in poverty. They were actually talking about closing one of their golf courses. Environmental focus. All of our golf courses are involved in Audubon Sanctuary Program. 56 of our golf courses are actually certified. We're the next largest operator. It has about 25 certified golf courses. We have 56 and we'll be at 72 by the end of the year. Publicity and media relations, we do a really good job telling the story so that people understand what's going on at the golf course. You're in good shape, here's what's going on, here's the story. We get those written at no cost. Why us? It's our attitude. That's Billy. I don't know how many for you non-golfers, that's Billy Casper. He just turned 80 this month. Our passion, I've talked a lot about this. I'm pretty passionate about delivering results and having fun. We're very passionate, the whole team is. Honesty and integrity. Those are all pictures from our annual meeting and our awards ceremony this past February in St. Augustine. So why us? And I know you're also, it's not just about why us, but it's why would you go this route? Largest operator of public golf in the United States means we have more resources, more systems, more tools to deliver for you. We operate with an owner's mentality, economies of scale, decentralized management structure. We have people close to service your needs. Golf course conditions. You got to take care of the golf course conditions first and foremost, and make sure that those are second to none and you're best in market. I talked about our revenue focus. I talked about our ACE training. We also have local market knowledge, which I alluded to earlier. Our headquarters are in Virginia. We're not in New York. We're not in California. We're pretty close. I want to thank you for your time. Available for any questions. I hope this gives you a decent overview of just some of the issues, but
I have a question.
yes, ma'am.
Do you assume all the liability, you carry your own liability insurance, the town will no longer be liable for anything that happens on the golf course?
For insurance or from a financial standpoint?
General liability. Is that your responsibility or is it the town's?
We have a liability, we have an insurance program for all of our golf courses, which is we go out to bid every year. And we have a liability insurance program that the town would be part of. Yes.
So the town would pay a portion of it, you're saying?
Yes.
As a rule, when you come in, the staff that is already affiliated with the present golf course, do you keep that staff on, work with them, and
That's our goal. Yes. We've actually
try
met.
to utilize what we have here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We've actually met with some of your key staff.
Mhm.
We like them. I think they're actually good people. And I think we had a good meeting today. So yes, that would be our goal. That would be our plan.
Joe, I think we need to address Mrs. Brown's question because the liability exposure from the management and operations versus the property, we would bring the property coverage proposal to you, and it would be a funded expense out of the revenue, no different than what it is today. Does that answer your question?
Partly.
Okay. I don't think it did. You're currently paying for insurance coverage for the golf course, and you're paying that, whatever you're paying for insurance coverage is based off of the revenue that you're doing at the golf course?
It's an enterprise fund, so they are self-supporting.
Right.
Yes, but let me just say that this would still remain a public facility, and as such, the town would not be delegating its liability. So we would maintain the same insurance, whether it is paid directly by the town or paid by the management service company is irrelevant. That would just simply be a matter of negotiating that in a contract. In any case, all of the money is still associated with this facility is still the town's. The facility is the town's, the budget is the town's. All we are doing, if we proceeded down this route, would be instead of hiring a single employee to be responsible for doing all these things, we would be hiring a management service under contract. So it really doesn't change the legal relationship of anything that we have going on with the facilities themselves.
You mentioned you had some courses in North Carolina. Where are they?
We have Brook Valley, which is near the Eastern Carolina campus. It was a member club for many years. They enjoyed a lot of member benefits, no tee times, group play, all those things. It was acquired by one member who basically saved the club, facing a lot of the same issues, operating expenses going up, declining membership. Well, within the first 2 years, we've added almost 130 members, and we've stabilized the operation. That particular situation was more relevant to developing a program that would really have the ability to go get market share. The second course was signed less than 60 days ago, and that's in Fairfield Harbor, New Bern, North Carolina. A group of 2,800 communities in kind of a waterfront community, almost a small municipality, if you will. And the developer had had some issues like some of the things you talked about with the bond financing. So in the midst of that litigation, we were hired to come in and bring the amenities back to a level that supported of what the community's interests were. And we're in the process now of reconstruction, some reconstruction. We've launched some programs. We've increased their play significantly just in the first 90 days.
Shaw Resources, actually, they're headquartered right now.
The developer is actually headquartered in Greenville, South Carolina, correct?
Any other questions?
Joe and Doug, I think you guys put together an excellent presentation. I'm not a golfer. Okay, never
We can
have
change
been.
that.
No, not a golfer, not interested, but appreciate it anyway. But I think you've had the opportunity to sit with this for a while, to hear our budget presentation, and to see that I think what people want to hear right now is, let's cut to the chase. What's the bucks? What's the dollars? What are we talking about?
We have an annual management fee. It's basically a monthly fee. If you're, with that, you're going to be, first of all, you're going to be net better off. Okay? If you're not net better off, you can get rid of it. That doesn't happen often. Okay? But you have the ability to get rid of us if you're not net better off. If you save money, and then it's two premises. One, you're going to save money with us in terms of economies of scale, things that you buy, fertilizer, chemical, systems, processes. In addition to that, we're also going to drive more revenue. Okay. Our annual management fee is less than what you'd be paying a general manager. Right. Okay. It's somewhere between it's about $6,500 a month. It's a typical management fee. Should say. Sounds like a big number when you look at what capabilities and what you're going to get for that, and what you're going to save for the golf course, all of that. The other thing that I would say is that I've said, oh, I'm sorry, I need to get closer. The other thing I've noticed in this meeting, you've got a lot of big issues that are facing this town. One of the things that we do is we actually take the management of that golf course, the things that you don't do anywhere else, and handle all that, and take that burden off the town so that they can go focus on the things that they need to do, which is going to run the town. You've got a lot bigger issues to worry about than what happens at the golf course. I mean, and we understand that and their own possibilities. I look at the Chicago Park District, and they start talking about how big their assets are, and they go, the golf is nothing. We just need somebody to handle it and do it right. What I see across the nation is municipalities get really hung up about what is happening with their golf course. They want to do the right thing, but it ends up taking a lot of time and energy, not only from staff, but also attention. And it takes away from running and dealing with important issues, or more important issues, like you're facing here in the budget cycle.
I think one important point, and it's almost the most sensitive point, is of course the RIF, the RIF. And by having the state regulations that you have on labor and the burden and that sort of thing, it's almost a mitigating or a helpful resource by going this route. You may be able to actually preserve some people that actually come on board in the privatization role that maybe could not have been on board in a situation of RIF. And I don't know how deep that RIF is. But at some point that may be something that is advantageous to go this way in the preservation of some individual jobs.
What about your food service opportunities as far as at the golf course? You guys have been over there and looked around and seen everything, and
we have.
We
We operate currently, Mr. Showers, we operate facilities that do $100,000 a year in food and beverage up to 2.5. And so, 2.5 million. So the operations you have there and the changes you're making, you're creating a social environment there that we can really add value. We can buy product at a price that makes sense, and we can offer prices to the constituents and people who live in Black Mountain that are not escalated because we couldn't buy the product at the right price. And we can bring service levels based on our, what we showed you in terms of our in-house service training. So I know that there was an RFP or some negotiation on a lease. You're actually picking up a tremendous benefit because we bring that food and beverage operations with us.
We also operate probably a handful of golf courses with food and beverage operations that are leased out. And in those situations, where a big local restaurateur is looking for banquet space or they want to be involved in the golf side, and that's okay too. In those cases, we actually think it works better for those municipalities to have that outside operator because there's also some other presence in the market, so we're not adverse to that.
One of the things I've heard from some of the golfers, and we've been having a lot of golf discussions over the last 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. But one of the things I've heard from them, especially the guys who've been there for a while, is about the ability or inability to be able to get a tee time. They're saying that when you have so many golfers, it takes away from the golf course, or it allows for too much use, wear and tear.
Looking at your numbers, from a numbers standpoint, you're doing about 21 to 25,000 rounds of golf. I think we've forecasted that number goes, and I'll tell you, this business is a high fixed cost business. That's the good thing and the bad thing. It's good when you're above it, it's bad when you're below it. It costs about the same amount of money to maintain the golf course if 15,000 people play it or 25,000 people play it. The cost is the same. You've got to mow the greens. You have some incremental costs in sand and maybe a little fertilizer. But the good news is that once you're over that break-even point, 95% of every dollar, 95 cents out of every dollar, from carts, greens fees, and membership fees fall to the bottom line, the profit. Because once you get past your break-even, that's why all of a sudden this industry started building a number of golf courses. It was a high fixed cost business. They jumped in. They said, "Oh, we just got to move rounds up 2,000 or 3,000, and it's all profit." That's what happened. It cuts the same way on the underside of that. If you can't put forth the product unless you're above that break-even point, you don't have those funds. I look at the number of rounds that the golf course is doing. It's not doing that many rounds. It shouldn't. I'll put it this way: if you look typically from a capacity standpoint. If a golf course opened up at 7 in the morning and your last tee time was 2 o'clock, you have about 7 hours to send people out. In that 7 hours, it's about, I'm going to go do some math off the fly here, but it's about 420 minutes. If you sent out tee times every 8 minutes, it's about, let's say 10 minutes. You could send out 42 groups a day. Is that right? Okay. About 160 golfers a day, times 30 days, about 4,500 rounds a month. If you're only open for 6 months, you'd be doing 29,000 rounds, okay? The golf course has capacity. Golf courses get busy during certain times. But if you wanted to raise rounds of golf, 5,000 rounds, which is, when I look back historically, the golf course was doing in those rounds. If you want to raise rounds of golf, 5,000 rounds, you say, okay, I'm going to do that, those 5,000 rounds. What does that mean on a daily basis? You go do the math. You say, okay, 5,000 rounds divided by 10 months, about 500 rounds a month. Divide that by 30 days. You end up with about 18 golfers a day. Divided by, assume they play in threesomes. You need 6 more groups a day to play the golf course to find 5,000 rounds of golf. That number of groups, those 6 groups, going off every 8 minutes is about 45 minutes worth of tee times. It's nothing. So there's a lot of capacity. Sometimes, on the golf course, it's this market. When we look at some market analysis, the golf course should be doing 31,000 rounds. There's 31,000 rounds of golf in this market. And we use that. We take demographic data, take golf course data, and it's merged. It's done by an analyzation tool that we use all around the country. You should be doing 31,000 rounds, and that's what we quote.
If this board accept the manager's recommendation as far as this venture goes, how soon could you get started?
We do a lot of transitions. We can do it in 30 days. We've done it in shorter time. We can definitely do it in 30 days. That gives us time to ramp up systems and process and for me to move resources around and basically start transitioning. 30 days. 15 days more is a little better. 15 days less, we can still do it. We've done them in as little as 10 days notice. We can do it. It gets a little crazy. 30 days is good notice. 30 days is good.
Thank you,
answer my questions.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I understand you got a
Thank
lot
you.
bigger
Thank
issues
you.
going on right now, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
We're moving to the public hearing.
There's one other item. You took care of a couple of these in agenda session confirming your budget workshop, but Mr. Showers had asked for a discussion of Gray Eagle Soccer Complex.
I'm sorry, I thought all those were taken off. Okay, Mr. Showers.
And I plan on making probably a fairly lengthy presentation, but looking at the hour, and I know that a lot of people are here to discuss the budget, and we probably do have a lot of people signed up for public comment. But I just want to make a couple of points, and then maybe later in the year, I will bring this issue back up. But in April, I believe, I was looking at several things with the budget in mind, looking at several of our facilities here in town. And one of the places I looked at was the Gray Eagle Complex, indoor soccer stadium. And I wanted to get more information about that facility, the things that were going on there, what caused its inception, how much money was spent, what was done to bring it to where it is. I charged the town manager and her staff to do some research for me to bring out the files from where it was first proposed up until the point where it was open. And they were very good, very diligent in bringing about the material for me. But when I got the material and reviewed it, on several occasions I came here to the town hall and sat down with it, I found that there was a lot of information that was just, no matter how you try to read over it and put it together, it just didn't mesh. It just didn't feel right. When I made the initial request to the town staff, I also sent out the email to the other alderman and the mayor. And I was told by Alderman Sobel, who I learned to find later was basically the overseer or more or less the general contractor in charge of the venture, that if there was anything that I needed to know about what happened or what was done there at the Gray Eagle, just ask. About that same time, Mr. Sobel also charged our staff a chore, and that was to go back to the 3 terms that I served on our Parks and Recreation Commission and retrieve all the minutes of the meetings that I was engaged in during my 9 years on that commission. For what reason, what purpose, I don't know. Other than maybe he was trying to put together some presentation of his own. But anyway, like I said, the information I have can wait until next month and the month after. But what concerns me as a citizen more so than as a person on this board is looking at the amounts of money that were spent, looking at promises that were made to pay money back, trying to find evidence of where the money was actually paid back to the town. And I'll use one example as far as the asbestos removal of $8,480 that was taken from the town general fund with the promise that it would be repaid from people who were affiliated with the program and the soccer coming in. Again, there's no documentation. I appreciate the effort that Ms. O'Neill and Dean undertook in last week and the staff in getting the information together for me and presenting it to me last Friday where I could look at it. Again, I guess what befuddles me more than anything is if there's a citizen, if you came to one of us on this board, if you had a concern, you had a question, which you do, if you came to one of us on this board and you asked a question as to why was this done or why was that done or why was this money spent or how was that money spent here or how was that money spent there, you would expect, you would require, you would demand an answer. For me to do it, whether I did it as a citizen or whether I did it as a member of this board, and to be ignored totally not once but twice, and continue to be ignored by Mr. Sobel to provide the information. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But like I said, I have done a lot of research myself, and I got a file, and I got numbers, and I got figures, and I got concerns, and I got questions. And, you know, I'll present those at a later date. So, Mr. Mayor, if it's permissible, I would like to ask that we take a 5-minute recess and then carry on with our citizen comments.
Before we take a break, Mr. Sobel has to respond.
I have no intention to hear what Mr. Sobel has. He had his opportunity.
You may leave. I'm going to recognize Mr. Sobel.
Of course, the one question is, Mr. Showers, why would you go on this witch hunt? You were on the recreation board during this time. Joan Brown was on the town board here. And you have chosen not to go ahead and ask anything relevant. I could probably take, and I'm trying to figure out whether to do it at this meeting, because I have all the documents, the copies of the documents. But let me just address a couple of the things. First of all, I went ahead and in 2004, I came up with this idea of a soccer center, an indoor soccer center. So I went ahead and I presented the idea to the Recreation Commission. And I had to go to them because the town board, of which I was a member at that time, wished to follow the steps. If we're going to have a soccer center, to be under the recreation's direction, so let's go to them, get their blessing, come back to the board. So over a period of about 6 months, I went ahead and developed a plan, went ahead and drew up plans, went ahead and came up with a budget, went ahead and went to see the Recreation Commission on several occasions. At that time, Carlos Showers was not a member of that particular group. But I did go ahead and present to them, and they wholeheartedly endorsed the idea. I'd gone ahead and had came up with a budget of what I thought that it was going to cost, and had said that, you know, this budget will probably, hopefully it'll stick, but it's like any budget. There's a chance that it could be higher, and of course, as it turns out, it was much higher, and there's reasons for that. Number one, this $8,400 that Carlos Showers is speaking about was for asbestos removal. That used to be the Clevenger Knitting Mill plant. In the very front of that plant, first of all, this is a building, which is now the Gray Eagle Center, over off Blue Ridge Road, and is right beside the fire station. This is what they call a clear span building. That is, the arches, the steel arches that hold up the roof, clear the entire span of the floor, so that you're not having to go ahead and have any posts in the way when you start playing. At the front of this was offices, and that's where this asbestos tile was in the front. So we had to get that looked at. We had to get that removed. That was $8,400. We also then had to go ahead and get someone there to look at the mold issue, because there was some mold in those offices, which then resulted in changing the whole design of the complex, because all that structure had to be taken out. We had to get radon tests done. We had to go ahead and look at the sewer, because the sewer, that area over there is on a septic tank. Was the septic tank field big enough? And so I've got all those documents. Then the biggest thing came in the fact that when we started to get all the people together, because my son was playing soccer at the time, and we had a lot of other folks in the area that were really interested in getting an indoor center, because we had to drive to Asheville to play indoor soccer. We could use all the volunteers and get this work done, but lo and behold, Tony, who was the town manager at the time, said, no, you can't do it. You cannot go ahead and have volunteers. It just won't work. Our insurance will not cover it. So then we had to go ahead and we had to bid things out. Now, because of this budget here tonight, I'm not going to go ahead and go too much further into this. But I'm going to be giving Marcy these documents. These are copies. This was the file that I kept on this project. I was basically the supervisor of this project, because Tony was the general contractor representing the town. So I worked under Tony. I figure I spent about 600 hours doing this particular project. This project, even though it came in over budget, we ended up getting more money because we got $40,000 from the settings, which more than covered this $8,400 that Mr. Showers is talking about. And if Mr. Showers had looked at all the statements that Marcy had provided there, all this information, which was a stack about this big that the town had to go ahead and do, you'll be able to see then where the money went. Now, you have to realize this is election time coming up. This happened 5 years ago. The Gray Eagle Soccer Center is making money. Last year, the Gray Eagle Soccer Center brought in about, not this year, but the year before, about $30,000. $30,000. The liquor store doesn't bring in $48,000. Golf course brings in less than $50,000. So here's a soccer center that eventually cost the town $65,000 is all it cost the town. The total cost on it was $105,000. But that's because we got a $40,000 grant gift from the settings. So it cost us $65,000. We have made more money off of that soccer center. We're in the black right now. $105,000 to build a soccer center. I went up to Cincinnati, I went up to Covington, Kentucky, and I went to Asheville to talk to the owner over there. The gentleman that put down the carpet in the soccer center. So that's 4 people. All 4 of those people concurred. I wouldn't touch building this soccer center for less than $250,000. This town got a great deal on that. And the audacity of a board member to start to question this 5 years later, especially when he was on the Recreation Commission once we started building it. And he never once, that I know of, and I spent a lot of time over there, not one time did this gentleman come over there. Not did he come over there to look, he didn't even come over to offer to help. So I think it is nothing more than a witch hunt. What he's trying to do is, because it's election time coming up, so I'm going to go ahead and give these documents to Marcy, and then at the very next meeting, I'm requesting right now to be put on the agenda to start at the very beginning of when this center was started. I will have a slideshow, and I will go through everything from the demolition bids, to the heating bids, to the sewer bids, to the installation of the carpet, right down the line to show the town where this money was. And it is a travesty that you would insinuate that there's something in there that I would do that way.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm thinking him ahead of time for what I asked him to do.
Yeah. Okay, 5 minutes break. I'll get this to Marcy.
5 minute break. The motion, call the meeting back to order. Accept the motion to open for a public hearing on the annual operating budget for fiscal year 11-12.
So move.
All in favor say aye. Okay. This time, does the board have any comments at this time? Not all. We have several want to speak. First one up is Alan Green.
Honorable Mayor, Board of Aldermen, Alan Green, 335 Lookout Terrace. I've ended up with so many notes after tonight's meeting, I don't know, I just might as well throw this daggone thing away. I thought I wrote out something pretty nice, but, you know, I just thought about my budget, Alan Green's budget, same as everybody else. We have basic things that we need. Got to have food, got to have shelter, got to have clothing. We've got to meet the minimum or our families don't exist. I'm listening to tonight on the budget as far as how we're dipping into basically an emergency fund is what I call it, Marcy, because I'm glad you mentioned this. We have a lot of things that could occur here. You know, we could have a lot of disasters, just like places around us. And that money we've got in there can go that quick, that quick. And for this town, this Board of Aldermen right here, to pursue niceties, as I call them, to pursue niceties. I am not against a park. I am not against parks. I'm not against having those type of things. But I think they come at a reasonable time. And this particular time is not for this town park down here. That is going to cost this town a lot of money. We're at a crossroads. We're at an intersection. We got to understand what we got to do here. We're going to take the right road and take care of our people. We've got probably one of the most fantastic police forces and fire departments that you could ask for. These are great people. They work hard. I'm not going to do their job for what they get paid. They deserve salary increases. I wish to goodness that we could give them a whole lot more than what we have in the past. But it's time that this board takes a look at what you're trying to do with this park and some of the other nice things that we're doing down here. We need to start making money and quit riding on my back and their back. We are not getting raises. And you're looking at $6 a month. We've got people in town here that's getting their garbage picked up and they're not paying a thing. And you need to start looking at some of these. You want to do studies? How about let's do studies on that account? All right, I should have just thrown that away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bob Pollock. Please state your address as whenever you come up, so be the record.
I'm Bob Hawley. I live at 1265 Montreat Road, and I ditto a lot what Alan says. I started attending these town council meetings about 15 months ago on budgets. The first budget meeting I went to was approached by the town manager afterwards, asking me what I thought. And I said, I don't see enough austerity. And then it had kind of an uncomfortable conversation. But anyways, since March of last year, I've made many observations. I sat in most of these town council meetings, and in these council meetings, I've noticed many things, but I'm going to come up with 4 things that I noticed in particular. First one was this town square project. You bought the town square property for $2.1 million. You're going to spend over $3 million, and I see all these issues with the budget this year. There's a problem. You could solve all your problems or much of your problem by selling this property. You need to get rid of this property before the real estate market crashes more. I don't see things getting much better, personally. Now, maybe I'm the glass is half full person, but I'm not looking at this year or next year, like the town manager says, of getting much better. I see things like the Black Mountain Trailblazer running around Black Mountain with hardly anybody on it. That's the bus transportation, the local. I see the golf club being leased out, the food service for for 12 months for nothing. You get no revenue from that. And then last month, I saw a vehicle donated to charity, and instead of taking the money on the bid, you donate it to charity and you get nothing for it. Now, we're not talking but about $1,700, but we're talking money. That's all I gotta say.
Nathan Pennington.
Thank you, Mayor, board members. I'll be brief. Nathan Pennington, 19 Walker Cove Road. Just wanted to say, you know, two of the big ticket items we've had, you just don't make big ticket items in a recession. Town Park was one of them, and the other one was this $250,000 to the golf course clubhouse. You know, when can you sign these golf guys up is all I got to say. That's just a win-win there. The other thing I'll say is, Ruth, thank you for your understanding with the whole town square and your concerns. They're echoed by a number of people that just might not be up here talking. And last thing I'll say is, the one good thing that's really worked in this town economy is the community garden. It provides food for the hungry, and I think that's a noble thing in light of this economy. So I hope you take that in consideration in terms of reduction in force. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. You be good.
E.B. Good, 131 Fairway Drive, and I'm basically here to plead to save jobs away from. I hope your RIF will be your last resort. 45 years of having to hire, interview, and lay off, fire, train people. That's one of the toughest decisions that you people will have to make, and I just hope that will be your absolute last resort in doing so. The community garden, we've got an individual whose salary down there is probably no more than the cost of the flower boxes that you're putting around the 18th hole over there. And Diane McCall, if you lose her, you're going to lose a $60,000 employee for about 9. So by the same token, when you made your decision to furnish the money for the 19th hole, where all the golfers came up here and got together, it's kind of like the Dallas Mavericks against Miami. All the men's association, the women's association kind of formed a bond, got together. Brett, who has created miracles over there, has started all these new programs, all these different tournaments where they're combined. Every holiday has got a big major event. The field is full. So my congratulations to him, and my thank you to you people on the decision you made in that matter. Thank you.
Dave Landon.
Dave Landy, 208 Paget Town. I would speak in support of Mrs. Brandon's very much minority position with regards to the park. I know you ladies and gentlemen know the numbers as well, far better than I. $208,000 last year, $203,000 this year is going to this project. This is going to go on for 20 years. If you're talking about balancing it on the backs of the working class, I can't favor that. I simply can't do that. I can't find that to be conscionable. I think that if you're talking about eliminating, as the newspaper said, 6.5 positions, then you're talking about 7 families in this town that are going to have a great deal of difficulty in order to save the same amount of money that you're spending for that year's interest on the park. No one opposes the idea of a park. It's obviously a lovely idea. A new pickup truck in my driveway would be a lovely idea also. I don't do that. It just doesn't seem as though it fits the budget. It doesn't seem to me as though this fits the budget. I think that would be about the best I could say about that at this particular moment. I thank you very much for your time.
Dan?
Stan Watchin. I live at 315 Lookout Terrace. I own 3 properties here in town. I have 2 businesses, rental property. If this park project is independently developed, it'll bring much needed money to the budget and also much needed jobs. As a downtown merchant, I want people doing commerce. I want them shopping, I want them eating, and I want them drinking. I want them playing golf, and I want them playing soccer. If those are the things that are making us money, we need to be doing it. As I walk down Cherry Street and State Street, the bricks are loose, there's bricks missing, there's grass between the bricks, the curbs are busted up. State Street too, we need to take care of what we have. And if we're not going to take care of what we have, what makes me think that we're going to maintain a park downtown? I see a lot of difficulties in that. And so I would like to thank you for my time and listen to me complain.
Thank you. Ryan Stone.
Ryan Stone, 227 Pine Street. I originally wanted to get up here and go through the budget, and even though there are no tax increases, a $6 fee for garbage pickup is still a tax increase because it comes out of the taxpayer's pocket. But tonight, hearing the eloquent examples of our citizens talking, and as you look out onto these faces, you see people that are doing the best they can to get by. You see they're tired. I just ask for you all to listen, to not be closed-minded in what you discuss in this budget, to evaluate all proposals, including the selling of the town square property. Much like Alderman Brandon said when she voted earlier today that she voted with her heart on an issue, I made a similar decision today when I resigned from the town square steering committee, because it is unfair to have a park at the cost of people's jobs. It is unfair to ask them to do more than what they're already doing. So tonight, I plead with you, put aside personal differences and evaluate all options to the benefit of the taxpayer. Thank you.
Mike Baldwin.
Mike Baldwin, 300 Newbern Avenue. Pardon a little bit of paper rustling here just for a moment. A couple of headlines out of the paper the last few weeks. Buncombe County has cut personnel 6.5%, and part of the way they're raising money is increasing fees on mobile home parks, which I take fees like that to be voluntary. There's been a 2 to 15% cut in budgets, according to the town manager Green in Buncombe County, and that's the same 93 positions, or a 6.5% cut. And the city of Asheville is raising $493,000 in fees, with $340,000 of that coming from the water commercial users. And I know that's a cost of businesses, but at least there is a profit and loss there, unlike most of us that are on salaries where we have a certain amount of income and the rest of it goes where we have to go with it the best we can. And they also cut 15 positions. As far as pay goes, my wife's a teacher. We have a couple of teachers sitting here. They're going into their 4th year with no increases at all, and also are losing positions this year as they lost last year. Now, I say this working in industry, and I can't exactly give numbers for my employer without their permission, but the company I work for and some other companies that I know fellow engineers and other people with have been faced with double-digit cuts over the last few years of personnel and little to no raises. Now, I'm glad you've got the subject on the docket of that. I'm sorry it's on the docket, and I'm not trying to give an opinion whether you should do it or not. As far as the park goes, I don't have a personal opinion pro or con. I'm just up here to give you some numbers. And out of that $400,000 shortfall, I'm understanding is in the budget, $203,000, over 50% of it is due to the park alone. Lastly, the $6 a month fee. This is what's known as a regressive tax. Looking at the rental property that we operate, and I just told you last month that our rentals, we had to go and try to raise rates because of the taxes. This will be a 15% property tax increase for us. And it's regressive in that if you have a house that's $100,000, the Black Mountain property tax will go up 19.7% due to this $6 a month alone. $150,000, which a lot of people have used as a median price for a house in Black Mountain, is a 13.2% increase, and that doesn't include all the administrative and all the other issues of trying to collect those fees. And my question is, does it give a break to apartment buildings? What about vacation rentals where they're empty part of the month and no trash is being generated? What about refuse versus recycling? We recycle a lot. I only put a trash can out at home every other week. And lastly, how do you handle the building of landlord versus tenant? Do I have to go back and tell them I need another $10 a month out of them when they're already struggling? Thank you.
Thank you. Juliet. I can't read this last name. Juliet, B-E-N-E-Z-R-A.
Ben Ezra. Julie Ben Ezra. Oh.
She's not here. That's all it says. Anyone else want to speak? If not, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
In discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-0.
Carl, can I say something,
Sure.
please? I just would like to clarify a couple things, and I'm not sure who even spoke to that, but there is no free snack shop at the golf course. I don't know where that came from, but there's nobody operating a free snack shop. There is no employee that's been earmarked to be laid off. Marcy has pointed this out to you. It was up on the screen. Not a single employee has been singled out at this point. We don't even know if we're going to do it, because Marcy's already told you we've got other things in the making, other opportunities. One of the things that I want to mention, a number of you speaking about the park, this has been a thorn of contention for quite some time. And all of you know that I was against it, then I was for it, and I'm back on the middle of the fence. Something that's hard to know what to do. I had proposed originally, and I'm going to reiterate it again tonight because there's any hope whatsoever. I had proposed originally, when we talked about this, of having a park, a small green space with benches, a bell tower in the corner where the Exxon station was. A little bit of green space, not the whole thing. To have parking on the back side where the old city hall was, where parking was originally, and then to utilize what was known as squeakies for commercial use. I still think in the back of my mind that this is an answer, a compromise to solving the problem. We could sell that part of squeakies and still have what some of the citizens want in a small green space. But I agree with you. This is a hard decision for us to make. We need the money. I agree. To put that kind of money out hurts. But if there's any way that we could come up with a compromise at this point, things aren't selling. Y'all know that. That piece of property could sit down there for 10 years. We'd still be paying on it. We're going to have to pay on it until somebody buys it. So to say we sell it, that's pie in the sky right now. It's just not going to sell. It didn't sell before when the owners had it. The other gentleman that owned it had it. But there's a lot of opportunities there, I think, for us to compromise and maybe recoup a little of the money. Who knows?
Why don't we put it on the market and see what we can get off for? I mean, I'm not for taking a big loss on it, but right on the other hand, we'll never know unless we try it.
Are you making that motion?
Yes, I'll make that form of motion.
Motion that property be placed on the market. Are you putting a price on it? The price that we paid? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we ought to advertise it for, or at least what we got in.
There's a motion for the amount that we purchased it for. Is that the motion?
Yeah, and it should, Should we get a new appraisal on it? Well, I know he's already been to it with the same person, but
I would think it'd be an appraisal until somebody had an offer on
okay.
it. In discussion.
Yes, I think there are probably some very deep pockets out there somewhere that we don't know about that would be interested in buying the entire piece of property. I would disagree with Joan in that we would sell it piecemeal because it becomes less valuable if part of it is sold and the other part is sitting there. Also, as far as the parking that we keep hearing about, actually, a few years ago, I had asked through a Merchants Association business to business that a parking survey be done by our planning director. He did, and he found we have adequate parking in this town. It's just not utilized. There are merchants who are parking in front of their own places of business. There are merchants who are parking in front of other folks' places of business. There are folks who are unwilling to walk a few feet or a few yards or a quarter of a mile, and you go a quarter of a mile when you park at the Asheville Mall. So there really is adequate parking now. Granted, there are days. We have festivals, we have the Sourwood Festival, we have other festivals. There are days that there's not adequate parking, but I can promise you from this survey, and I did not bring it tonight because I didn't know this was coming up, but I can promise you there's adequate parking in this town if it's fully utilized.
Marcia, do you need further direction?
I'm sorry?
Do you need further direction?
You haven't taken a vote on this yet, and I think you have a couple of options. If you do want to make a motion to put it up for sale, then you could leave it with unadvertised, I mean, just that it's for sale and look for any open-ended offers. The other thing is that you could, if you choose, you could set a minimum, but I would suggest you not have that discussion until we bring you actual facts about what we've got in it. And of course, that changes daily. I mean, our obligation to pay off the loan does not stop in the meantime.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I disagree wholeheartedly with Mrs. Brandon's assessment of parking downtown. And although I will agree with her, I can guarantee you can go downtown right now and you won't have a problem finding a parking place. It's good. You can go in there right now. But during the day, during the weekends, look at this. That's the reason why I voted for this, not for the park, but for the parking, to help the merchants downtown. The merchants downtown need additional parking. It's just that simple. And two things, keep in mind. Last year, at this budget time, I proposed to go ahead and take $1 million out of the fund balance. That would have brought that payment down to less than $100,000, which we could easily do. This board refused to consider that, period. They just refused to consider it, and then they went right ahead and raised your taxes 4.5 cents. The fact that this building that you're sitting in right now, this building is valued well over $1 million. This building is completely paid for. So when you begin to look at, we did not go ahead and put this building and that park in the same note. We kept this building separate, completely paid for. Completely paid for. So we expanded the square footage of City Hall by over 50%. And yet we have a building that's completely paid for. It looks as though that the park down there is $2.1 million. We did pay 2.1. We'll pay 2.1 million for that and for this building. So keep that in mind. I mean, that's one of the things that you have to understand. If we could go back and we stayed in the same old building and just and the two gas stations there, fine then. But you still run into a situation with no parking. You ran into a situation with a building that was deteriorating. And so the board took the steps to go ahead and buy this old building, the old CP&L building, put the money into it, and get it up to date. So we have a very fine city hall that lasts us for years and years and years. We need the parking downtown. If this board wants to go ahead and sell it, then sell it then. You know, I mean, that's all we keep hearing from these folks, from Ruth down there. They'll sell the building. Well, sounds like there's an opportunity right now to put that on the chopping block.
I would say
Any
that-
other discussion?
Yes, I would say that what Mike has said about this building is right. That's fine. We do have a fine building. However, facts are, bottom line, we did pay $2.1 million for this little piece of property down there that we had no plans for. We will, over a period of time, this is, the payments will continue until the year 2030, when my grandchildren will be paying it off. The interest on this property will come to little over $1 million, which, if my math is correct, that would still be $3 million that we would be paying for this little piece of property downtown. To say nothing of trying to, build a park, maintain a park. Who's going to maintain the park? Our town employees who are already overworked. Our city workers. Are we going to hire more employees to maintain the park? Or are we going to let it go to the dogs like a lot of other parks do? I just think I agree with Tim, it's time to sell it. Offer it for sale. Take the offers as they come in, like Marcy said. Rather than set a starting price, maybe just accept offers. I still think there are a lot of, as I keep saying, deep pockets out there somewhere. I see this in my place of business, that there are people with money, a lot of money. So just maybe we could sell it.
It's still not going to solve our budget problem for the year at this time. It will possibly, if there was a miracle that the land would sell within the year, it would certainly solve all the problems. But, we got to face reality. Land is not selling. Property is not selling. It's not going to sell this tomorrow. That's not going to get us out of our dilemma right now as far as this budget is concerned. It was something we did. We thought we were doing the right thing by buying it. The people that came out that wanted it filled this room twice over. Those that were against it, we didn't hear from you at the time. You're here tonight, after the fact. But those people that wanted this were out in full force. And we listened to what you say. We're listening to you tonight. That's why we're wondering, should we put it up for sale? These are how things happen. We listen to the citizens, and the majority of the citizens, back when the land was thinking about being bought and then bought, this room was packed. Not only once, but many times when the planning was going on. So this is the thing. We've got a decision to make. And how we do it, I don't know.
Any other discussion?
Hard pressed.
Call and vote. And all in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries 4-1.
Now, I hope all of you that agreed with this will be here next month when we catch heck from those that wanted it.
That's why you gotta have thick skin to be up there.
Amen. Amen.
New business?
I'd like to invite, is Jennifer Tipton still here? We have a proposal that Jennifer will prepare. As you know, we've been working for quite some time on making sure that the town is in full compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and one of the requirements of that act is to have created a transition plan, and Jennifer will present the work that she's done with an Citizens Advisory Committee.
Good afternoon, Mayor, or good evening, Mayor and Board. Wanted to be here longer, I guess. As we have been talking about all night with budget, we are behind in our ADA compliance. It came about through a citizen complaint that Lakeview was sorely in need of some renovations. And that's pretty much how we got started in realizing that we were way behind. So what we started with was to prepare a transitional plan that's basically a working document that will provide the basis for the removal of identified physical barriers over the next 15 years, but also realizing that it will need to be updated and evaluated on an ongoing basis. So with this, we have taken 5 action steps to actually implement ADA policies locally. So we designated an ADA coordinator, which is myself, and so my contact information is available. We have provided notice of ADA requirements. We have established a new grievance procedure that provides prompt and equitable resolution of complaints. Myself and Dan Cordell conducted a self-evaluation of all of our town facilities, and we have also gone over our own policies and procedures. And then, of course, we developed the transition plan for compliance that lists the barriers to our own programs, activities, or services, as well as actions and a schedule needed to address those barriers. With the self-evaluation, what we tried to do was focus on the areas that use the most, have the most people, and started with that. And of course, that was Lakeview. So we made extensive renovations to Lakeview, and we were lucky enough to receive a grant, or not a grant, a bequest, thank you, for $64,000 to complete that facility. I would urge any of you who have not seen it yet to go over there and take a look, because it is beautiful. We have also made some entryway improvements to the Carver Community Center. We have fixed our parking lot here at Town Hall. The 19th hole, as soon as that project starts inside, both the 19th hole clubhouse and the ladies or lower lounge will be ADA accessible. Again, we are looking to do $100,000 for the next budget year. Again, like Marcy said, that's to do Rec Park and Carver Center again. And then hopefully we can do a couple of little minor things throughout. But we're trying to keep on top of things through this transition plan and just keep moving along and getting everything fixed so that we can come into full compliance before we get any lawsuits or Department of Justice shows up on our doorstep. Are there any questions?
Just wanted to show, this is a pamphlet that they've put together. Whoops. Town of Black Mountain Transition Plan for Compliance with the American Disabilities Act. And I'm sure if any of you would like to read it and see all the things they've got in there, I'm sure they could pick one up here at City Hall.
And we'll also post it to the website.
Yeah, so it's very, very interesting.
I just have a question for Marcy. In the consent agenda, we passed minutes from the last board meeting. And I will read this. This is from page 9. It says, Alderman Sobel asked that staff provide copies of the total cost breakdown for the renovations to the Lakeview Center. Alderman Brand had asked this be supplied to all board members. Ms. O'Neill noted that the upgrades have been completed at Lakeview Center. Minor upgrades are being made at other facilities. I had asked for this prior to that, and I still haven't gotten anything yet. When can we get this information?
I apologize, Mr. Sobel. I just forgot. We have that prepared as part of the entire packet to come to your next budget work session. I'll be happy to send you the email with it tomorrow if you like. There was no intent to delay, and I apologize that we haven't gotten it to you in the time that you requested.
In defense of Marcy, she has been just overworked. She has had so many requests and rude emails and things from some of the board members that I don't see how she has kept her sanity long enough to do anything. She has done a great job, and I'll appreciate having it anytime you can get to it, Marcy.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the ADA transition plan as presented?
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor, say
I just want to ask a question. So
what does this, what are we required to do for this? What dollar figure are we required from this, from adopting? We need ADA, every single bathroom needs ADA. I'm just trying to say, what are we bound by when we agree to this document?
There is not a dollar figure attached to this document. What this document does is give plans for how we will make all of our programs and services accessible, and the grievance procedure that people can go through if they feel like they have not had access to our programs and services. As we have explained multiple times, ADA does not require all public facilities to be fully accessible in terms of barrier removal, as long as the programs and services offered by them are accessible. This outlines a number of operational items, but it also does list all of the barriers that do need to be removed in each of our facilities. So this committee is also looking at what's a priority, and I think Jennifer just explained that we have tried to approach that from the standpoint of those facilities that have the heaviest public use and that we don't have an ability to move a program to another location. So we have not gone through this entire list yet to price out every single barrier removal opportunity. But
is this complete? I mean, you did this a year ago on Wednesday is when you compiled this on June the 15th. So would this be, so this is complete? I mean, we don't need to add anything to this?
Not as of this point. I do get regular updates from the Department of Insurance, keeping me abreast of all the updates that ADA may or may not come out with. I keep up with the ADA website just to make sure we don't miss any changes. We will also check when the new code comes out in September. They have new ANSI standards for ADA, so we will double check those to make sure nothing has changed, and if so, if something needs to be changed in there, we will be glad to do it. And again, realizing that it's an ongoing basis and that more than likely will not stay the same forever because things will change as we go along.
Yeah. I was just noticing just what was listed on here that's why I'm so anxious to see this list of what was done over there, because we spent, close to $80,000?
Yes, but that was not all about ADA. That was a bequest specifically for senior programs and facilities. So there were other upgrades at Lakeview that had nothing to do with ADA.
If you'll just give me that document, please.
I think it's a good document, what you have here, what you guys prepared. And Marcy, if you were able to compile Mr. Sobel's information for him, and it was just an oversight that you hadn't prepared, at least you guys for us, I did.
Okay. Any other comment?
The reason we're hit with this is, as we said before, back in 1991, this town should have stepped up to the plate then. Whoever was on the board or town manager or staff, I don't know back then. I can't remember back that far right now. But this should have been done then. This year, this board, thanks to some conscientious citizens, have stepped up to the plate and will continue to step up to the plate as long as we need to.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now the fun part. Appointments to fill the vacancy on town boards and commissions. We have one nomination to the ABC Commission.
I'd like to nominate Deborah Wooten for the ABC Board opening.
All those in favor of Deborah Wooten? Are there any others?
No, I was voting.
Okay. All those in favor of Deborah Wooten, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
I would also like to note, Mayor, that it's up to us to appoint the chair of that board, and I would move that we reappoint Mary Sneed to chair of the board.
Motion to reappoint Mary Sneed, chair of the board. Any other nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Rick Spalding.
Rick Spalding.
Any others? All those in favor of Mary Sneed, raise your right hand. All those in favor of Rick Spalding, raise your right hand. Mary Sneed will be the new chair, will be the continuing chairman.
What was the vote on that for?
4-1.
4-1.
Greenways Commission, 2 vacancies. Only 1 applicant. The nomination.
I move to accept Julie Weatherford.
Any others? All in favor of Julia Weatherford, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
And then we got to go ahead, because we've got Ann Lutz and John McNair, who have served 2 terms. So we need to get, what do we have, 1 more?
No. Well, yeah, it's 2 vacancies.
Yeah, we have 2
Yes,
vacancies.
There's 2 vacancies.
But we can make a motion to take one or the other of those, even though they've had 2 consecutive terms.
Well, we have to amend the ordinance.
Just amend the
I move that we amend the ordinance and reappoint Ann Lutz.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
There's a motion on the, are we getting that
Before you
away?
act on that motion, what was the motion?
She was wanting to know if we could amend it and let her serve another 3-year term.
You can waive the rule, you can't amend the ordinance.
Well, then
Sounds
waive,
good.
if that's a better word.
Thank you,
We'll
Council.
waive.
Thank you.
I like to waive.
Folks, we're getting punchy.
A motion to waive the rule and then let's continue another 3-year term. All in favor? Motion carries, and let's continues. I guess we better vote her in though, haven't we? All, I hate this.
We vote to waive the motion now.
Right, okay, all those in favor of Ann Light's 3-year term, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
If I could just suggest one thing, would you please send a note to John McNair and thank him for that, but also ask him to please apply for next year? Because he has been on this board for over 15 years and has done an excellent job.
Mr. Mayor, who made the motion to appoint Ann Lutz to continue on that board?
So,
Thank you.
I made the motion.
I thought you made the motion to waive.
To waive it and reappoint in the same motion.
I'm sorry,
Reappoint Ann
put
Lutz.
down her name for him. Planning Board. 1 applicant.
Which one, Carl?
Planning Board,
Planning Board.
number 5.
What's their vacancy?
There are no applicants.
No applicants on historic, no applicants on housing. Planning Board, don't have one that's applied. Is there a motion?
I'll make a
I'd
motion
like
to
to
appoint
nominate Michael
Rick Brains.
Okay.
I'll appoint Mike Brains.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Michael Raines, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Recreation Commission. Okay, here's where the fun starts. We're going to do these one at a time.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Jim Halverson for a 2nd term.
Okay, we're going to vote on them one at a time, right?
We start at the top or how?
I nominated.
He nominated James Halverson.
James Halverson.
Okay.
I think you all agreed in the agenda session that all of the candidates were nominated. So you have 5 candidates for 3 terms, and you were going to take a vote with all of the candidates.
But
you can
we
do it
got to take the
how.
nominations. I mean, just because they made an applicant applied, somebody's got to nominate them, right?
No.
You, in the agenda meeting, you agreed for these large, when you've got more bodies than spaces, they would all be deemed.
Okay, all
They're already nominated.
Okay. All those, we'll start the top and come down. On these, we've got John DeWitt, James Halverson, Don Mayhill, Mike Baldwin, Heath Peak. Are there any more?
We're going to do them in alphabetical order then?
I'll just start at the top and come down.
John DeWitt, James Halverson, Don McMahill, Heath Peak, and Mike Baldwin.
Right. Okay. All those in favor of John DeWitt, raise your right hand.
1, 2,
3. 3 votes. Okay. All those in favor of James Halverson? Right hand. 5 votes. Don Mayhill, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, if you only get 3 votes, so.
I done voted.
If you, what we were.
Had 3.
Yeah, but what I.
Got them in, they're already in now.
They're in.
They're already, all the vacancies are filled.
Right, you were not voting on each person, we were voting on each open slot. So for the first term, you have 5 candidates. For the second term, you'll have 4 candidates after you figure out who's got the most votes the first time.
So in this vote, you should each only vote once as we read the list of 5 candidates.
May I suggest, actually, that you all take a piece of paper and each of you write 3 candidates' names down, and then we'll count the votes very quickly and determine who's got the most votes.
Hand them in to me.
We were gonna write you in, Ron. No. Well, there goes our write-in, Jones, so we'll have to vote for it.
Are you counting
Yes,
them?
we have to keep those for the record, so put your name on the. Yeah.
At this point, I don't know.
The town clerk and I here will count.
Town clerk.
Pass them down.
You got mine?
Oh, we'll count them right here. In front of everybody. You got them all? Okay.
Front and center.
Just read them off, and we'll tally them as you read them off.
Okay, I got this here. It's Mike Baldwin, Keith Peak, and Jim Halverson.
James Halverson, Don McMahon.
Wait a minute. What's the second one?
James Halverson, Don McMahon, Mike Baldwin. John DeWitt, Don McMahon, James Halverson.
Okay.
John DeWitt, Don McMahon, James Halverson.
Okay.
John DeWitt, Don McMahon, James Halverson.
So.
There's no ties.
Thank goodness.
What would we have done if there had been one?
We flipped the coin. Okay, your new people are John DeWitt, James Halverson, and Don McMahill. Urban Forestry Commission, 2 vacancies.
And you technically have only 2 individuals who qualify, even though you have 3 applicants. One individual has moved out of the town limits, but you will also have to waive the requirement because one of these is reapplying for a 3rd term.
I move we waive the requirement and accept the 2 applicants.
You're talking about Joyce Schwartz and Susie Smith?
No.
Susie's out, she's moved. Joe and Joyce.
Joe and Joyce.
Mhm.
Joyce Schwartz and Joe Tomsick.
Any other nominations? If not, all those in favor, we're waiving the motion. We're waiving the rule.
The rule.
And Joyce Schwartz and Susie and Joe Tomachek. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? 5-0. Okay, zoning board of adjustment.
This is the difficult one.
I just recommend that we go ahead and we move the two first and second alternate up into the open positions reappoint Jerry Adkins. That completely fills the Board of Adjustments. And then we add the 3 other people that applied, Rachel Allen, Alan Arkin, and Everett Thomas, as the first, second, and third alternate.
You noted one too many regular positions. There are actually only 2 vacancies there's a mistake on your agenda.
Oh, is this 3? I mean, I'm looking at 3.
Yes, but there actually are only 2 vacant slots.
Did we not agree to vote on each one?
Well, this one is a little different because of your succession policy from the alternates. The only question, you have one 1-year term and one 3-year term open. You have Jerry Atkins, who has asked for reappointment, and you can appoint, if you choose to reappoint, you may reappoint him either to a 1-year term or a 3-year term. That would probably be the best thing if you just deal with that question, period. And then we will know which term is left, and that's the term that Mr. Solomonides will move into.
Okay. I'll accept the motion on Jerry Atkins to be appointed to a 3-year term. So we've got that motion over here. All those in
To the
favor?
1-year term or the 3-year term?
3-year term is what he said.
He said a 1-year term.
He said 3-year term. Did you say 3 years? 3 years. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, raise your right hand. So he's not going.
Make the recommendation that he be
Make a motion.
in the 1 year.
Mr. Showers makes a motion that he be appointed to the 1-year term. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. What's the next one?
Then you would have Mr. Solomonides, who is your first alternate, moving into being appointed to the 3-year term. You don't have to vote on that according to your own rules. That's just that's what happens. Your first alternate moves. Then Ms. What's her name of our second alternate? Ms. Laurie Swan becomes the first alternate, and then you have 2 other applicants who can be named as alternate.
I would like to nominate Rachel Allen to be nominated. I'd like to nominate her for an alternate position.
Second.
I think we're going to accept all of them as alternates.
I think the question is the order in which you want to list them.
First, second, third.
Alternate.
All right. Rachel Allen.
No, there'll only be 2.
You got Alan Arkin, Everett Thomas, and Rachel Allen.
To go for a second and a third.
There is no limit on the number of alternates you can appoint. You may appoint them all as alternates if you like, but you need to determine which order they're going to succeed in.
I said second alternate.
Rachel Allen for second alternate is what she said.
Okay.
She made that nomination.
Yes.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. 5-0. I guess now we're looking for first alternate?
No, you already have a first alternate. That's Laurie Swan. You've just voted on the second alternate, who is Rachel Allen. You have 2 names left, and they each can be appointed, if you so choose, to the 3rd and 4th alternate slots.
Move we accept Alan Arkin as the 3rd alternate.
Any others? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Everett Thomas? Is there a motion for him?
I'll make a motion.
Any others? All in favor of Everett Thomas? Raise your right hand. Opposed?
I'd also like to recommend that you would send a letter to them and advise them that the Historical and Housing Commission still has an opening, so that if they wish to serve on those, that they could do both.
Motion carried 5-0.
So what is was the last one the 5th alternate?
You have 4 alternates.
Citizen comments.
Any comments from the town attorney?
I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor, unless you have questions about anything. I think this time of night you probably heard about enough.
Unless you want to nominate somebody that wants. Sure. Town manager,
No, sir, nothing else.
Board of Aldermen, citizens.
Elaine Lotzenheiser, 410 Avena Road. I'd just like to add my comments to I didn't sign up earlier, but I'd like to add my comments to putting the town property on the market, but not to accept anything less than what you already have in it, and not to spend any more money developing it or doing anything toward it other than the minimum that you have to make the payments for as long as you have it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Deborah Wooten, 112 Entoffer. I just wanted to clarify what the ADA transition plan is. It was mandated when the law was passed that we had to have it in place. So there's no dollar amount attached. We have an ADA coordinator. We have a grievance process. We've targeted the areas that we need to work on. Because if we didn't have the transition plan and someone filed a formal complaint, we'd have real problems. Elizabeth Teague started the ball in motion. Jennifer did a stellar job, and I think that we should be thrilled with the lightning speed we moved forward on the ADA issue. As far as selling the town square property, if you don't know it's for sale, how do we know someone is not out there that wants it? I mean, I never thought the Food Lion would get rented, and there's more activity down there now. It warms my heart every time I go by there. So it's possible it will sell. About parking, Saturday, I went to Veranda, a little after 1 o'clock, parked right in front, didn't have to circle. Was there for lunch the previous Monday, stopped in to speak to Mrs. Brandon. On Wednesday, on my way to patronize another shop, we commented there were loads of parking spaces. There's plenty of parking in this town, and I try not to take a parking space when I'm going to be in town. I try to go up by Attorney Sneed's office, but I have never had a problem parking in this town. Maybe my father's pizza, it's a bottleneck, but I find parking any day of the week, summer, winter, fall. You just have to be patient. You might have to go around the block once or twice. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no objection, I declare this meeting adjourned.